Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Embarrassed. Chapter 44, Embarrassed. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Someone's in battle. Ger, are they tired of living? Tian turned his gaze to the two wounded warriors whose lives were hanging by a thread. He was overjoyed to be in such circumstances as he could simply eliminate those two warriors and take their clothes off them. Tian, I'll be leaving first. Having said that, a jade slip appeared the moment Yang Hao extended his arm. The jade slip was clouded in spiritual qi. Major maneuver spell. Major maneuver spell. Tian gasped in surprise. At the same time but at a distance away, Zhou Qingqing too cried out with a face of regret. This major maneuver spell was capable of shifting a person to a great distance, and if so, he could no longer be pursued. Although Tian was equally shocked, this major maneuver spell intrigued him. With that, he circulated his body of true qi to unleash his Ice Vitality Divine Fist. Ice Vitality Divine Fist, 300-mile frost. After letting out a gentle shout, a glacier emerged within a 1,000-yard radius at the flicker of his body. Yang Hao and Zhou Tian were now trapped in this glacier, frozen stiff as ice sculptures. Even though Yang Hao was on the verge of unleashing the major maneuver spell, fear was cemented on his face. Shameless. The three women afar were shocked that a powerful master was lurking amongst them there. Even as a warrior king, Zhou Qingqing's divine mindfulness could not detect him. However, the three women's faces soon flushed red as a naked young man appeared out of thin air and submerged into the glacier. Clang! The glacier shattered to pieces at the sound of a huge explosion. With Yang Hao and Zhou Tian gone, Tian quickly found a set of clothes and wore it on his body. *CK this is very embarrassing. Tian's expression hardened after he put on some clothes because he realized that three women were peering from a distance. They must have seen him in his birthday suit. His reputation was now ruined. Ruined. As soon as he said that, Tian cleared many warriors' storage sacks in a hurry. Since he was poverty-stricken and did not have a penny to his name, he was not one to waste these storage sacks. Senior sister, I don't want the Onyx equipment anymore. Let's go, a gorgeous woman beside Zhou Qingqing said before looking the other way. She did not have the nerve to gaze afar. Could that young man have a weird fetish in fighting without clothes? What a pity, he seemed to be a lovely man. He's only a tier 4 warrior spirit. Wait for me, I'll retrieve the Onyx equipment. Zhou Qingqing too was blushing, but she forced the image to the back of her mind at the thought of the Onyx equipment. Judging by the looks of her junior sister, she knew she was feeling shy. Senior sister, let it be. He's junior brother Tian from Sky Dragon Empire, Yi muttered in a soft voice. Her face turned boiling hot when she connected the dots between this junior brother to the memory of both of them spending a night in a cave. Sky Cloud sex Tian. Zhou Qingqing and the other junior sister cried out in alarm. Before entering the Hidden Dragon Isle, Tian was persuaded to take apprenticeship under a warrior ascendant, and he had even competed against the same warrior ascendant in a battle of flaming forces. Swoosh! As a piercing sound cut through the air, a figure appeared before the trio. With fears written all over their faces, the trio took a step back in unison. Even Zhou Qingqing, who was a warrior king, fell back a step. This young man had fought au natural. If the circumstances were the same, they would not be able to face him. Senior sisters. Deep down, Tian smiled bitterly as his earlier actions were exposed to these three young girls. If he were to leave right away, news of him tending to run around naked would spread like wildfire. Shameless, the trio exclaimed. Tian was taken aback. He had quite a luck in finding himself in these situations. Senior sisters, you've misunderstood. I came across some issues during cultivation and my storage sack was burned to dust. Do you think I like to have it this way? Li Lingtian pointed at his apparel. It was obvious that the clothes were one size larger and did not fit him. He did not even have any usable weapons on him. Huh. Junior brother Li, your cultivation. I see. After spending a night with Li Lingtian, Lu Yi realized that he was not as deplorable as she had imagined. Taking another glance at Li Lingtian's cultivation level, she could not help but believe his words due to his advancement from Tier 1 to Tier 4 warrior spirit state. Lu Yi chuckled, putting Li Lingtian in an awkward position. Senior sister, junior brother Li's right. He cultivates fire path techniques. I've personally witnessed junior brother Li breaking through a while ago and now he's a Tier 4 warrior spirit. Something must have happened during his cultivation. Pleased to find Li Lingtian embarrassed, Lu Yi then turned to explain to Zhou Qingqing. Zhou Qingqing could tell that something strange was going on with Li Lingtian's clothes. Besides, his clothes did not fit him. For a moment, the three women burst into giggles while Li Lingtian stood there blankly, not knowing whether he should lash out. If there's nothing else, I shall take my leave now, Li Lingtian spoke before he turned around in an attempt to leave. However, he was called back by Zhou Qingqing. Junior brother Li, where do you plan on going? Zhou Qingqing asked in a sweet voice. The more allies they had in Hidden Dragon Isle, the stronger the forces. Although the treasures divided would be less, they would feel much safer. It's still early so I'm going to take a stroll around or else my trip here will be in vain. Li Lingtian spread his palms out helplessly. Since he had lost everything, he had to venture out in search of treasures or he would suffer double losses. There appears to be a strange phenomenon happening in Hidden Dragon Isle. Some treasures might have emerged, why don't we join forces? Zhou Qingqing gave out a faint smile. Considering that the trio's combined strength was not enough and they required new blood, Li Lingtian made a great choice. Hee, 1 foot 11 inches be leaving. I can't face you after you've seen me naked. With that, Li Lingtian circulated his breeze technique and before the trio could say anything more, he had disappeared into the forest. This guy. Gazing at the direction Li Lingtian left in, Lu Yi felt a sense of loss. However, the thought of Li Lingtian in a fix left her bursting out in laughter. Li Lingtian launched his breeze technique to its summit. In a second, he was already dozens of miles away. The phenomenon Zhou Qingqing was referring to was most likely Divine Dragon Palace. The way Nine Yang's Sacred Lord described Divine Dragon Palace made it sound like it was dangerous, but what he really meant was that there were treasures in there too. The 4th tier Pseudo Dragon Beast's inner vital was key to enter Divine Dragon Palace. Hence, his priority was to find the Prince of Tian Jin Empire who possessed the Pseudo Dragon Beast. Subduing the Pseudo Dragon Beast was out of the question, but killing the beast was possible by teaming up with more warriors. Now that he was out, there was still a lot on the list to take care of before he could advance to Divine Dragon Palace. Otherwise, he would meet his end if he were to confront that many super powerhouses there. The sky gradually darkened as he dashed through hundreds of yards. So, Li Lingtian sought out a concealed cave and took shelter in it before sitting in meditation for a rest. Who would have thought? Sitting with his legs crossed, Li Lingtian still found it bizarre as his mind played back the events from a few days ago. He had somehow transmigrated over and realized that he was only a soul. After 3,000 reincarnations, he would have disappeared from the face of the earth if the three souls did not meet. He would probably have suffered a violent death in his former 21st century past, hence he thanked his lucky stars that the souls merged in time. The only downside was that all of his memories were missing. All that was left were his memory of his 21st century past and this life. However, it was all good. He could kick-start his life anew. With the heaven and earth reincarnation from the heaven scriptures, his flaming sacred body, ice vitality warrior soul, and the souls of three, alongside his 21st century wisdom, he could simply pick himself back up. Now, I should straighten up. Although I have the 9 Yang sacred fire, as well as the immemorial ice crystal and fire dragon's heart taken care of, I have yet to adjust to it, Li Lingtian mumbled to himself. With that, he began to cultivate with full energy. The immemorial ice crystal and fire dragon's heart were no longer of concern. Now that he was a Tier 4 warrior spirit equipped with the ever-omnipotent Ice Vitality warrior soul and flaming sacred body, he was no longer at risk amid warrior spirit powerhouses. He mainly had to watch out for warrior king masters. Nevertheless, his Ice Vitality Divine Fist and Flaming Divine Fist had made great strides. They released a powerful drive upon eruption, deserving the title as one of his killer moves. Chapter 45, Divine Dragon Palace. Chapter 45, Divine Dragon Palace. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Those who could operate an airship in Hidden Dragon Isle were not one to mess with. It's His Highness the Second Prince. Yao Tianxiong frowned at the sight of the airship. The arrival of more powerhouses here would turn up the heat in the competition. With Tian Wuji joining in, it would be more challenging to contend. Although they were super geniuses of Tianjin Empire, they dared not cross the line with Tianjin Empire's prince. Yao Tianxiong, Zhou Tianjiao, you guys are one step ahead of me. How is it? Report the situation to me. With an air of haughtiness, Tian Wuji stared down at Yao Tianxiong's group in a commanding position as though he was a king on high. Assuming such a posture made many powerhouses displeased with him. We just got here so we don't really know, Zhou Tianjiao faintly replied as he hid his displeasure within. Even though he was unhappy, it was not the time nor place to act out his emotions. No one in Tianjin Empire was bold enough to defy the empire that housed countless powerhouses. Oh, you don't know. You, explain the situation. Tian Wuji turned his gaze to another powerhouse. The faces of warriors beneath hardened at his demanding tone, spurring a heavy atmosphere that could be cut through with a knife. F***CKU, Tian Wuji, get your *SS down here. I'll whack you until your mother can't recognize you. You're only a forsaken son who has no power in Tianjin Empire. How dare you throw your weight about in front of me? Bei Ao of the Southern Empire's 10,000 Demons sect ran his mouth out loud. As a favored son of the Southern Empire, he would not be treated as a servant. Tianjin Empire's powerhouses may be afraid of stepping on Tian Wuji's toes, but that did not include the warriors of the Southern Empire. Die. Tian Wuji was stunned, but his face was quickly clouded with animosity. As a killing intent flashed past his eyes, Tian Wuji raised his arm without warning and slammed a peerless spiritual equipment towards Bei Ao. Many warriors were in dismay as the atmosphere quivered as though it was about to tear apart. The strike of a warrior king was indeed revering. Tian Wuji had the tolerance for many things, but saying that he was not in power was his sore spot. Sure, out of the numerous princes in Tianjin Empire, he was only a forsaken son, but opening up his old wounds flipped his lid. Heavenly Demon's body, break. Bei Ao looked towards the warrior king's peerless spiritual equipment with eyes of disdain. Circulating his true chi, Bei Qi turned into a 30-foot-tall demonic beast at the explosion of great demonic energy. The huge body and sturdy defense left quite a visual impact. Bam! A giant fist violently crashed onto Tian Wuji's attack. When the explosion sounded, the two attacks disappeared into a burst of forces in the air. Based on that one move, the duo's abilities were on par with one another. The attack from warrior kings left countless warrior spirits shaking in the knees. Humph, watch your back. Although he failed in his attempt, Tian Wuji did not intend to continue the battle. Plenty of powerhouses were present and his purpose was to search for treasure. Attaining this treasure would allow him to rise in power and gain control of Tianjin Empire. Swish, swish. No one uttered another word after the battle between two warrior kings had ended. From time to time, whistling noises passed through the sky as numerous powerhouses bolted over. Those who were able to make it here were warrior spirit powerhouses and disciples of supersects. There were also many warrior kings. Krung. An omnipotent energy soared skyward from the peaceful lake, which caused the entire lake to tremble and oppressed over 1,000 powerhouses. This is the 8th time. This astounding energy exploded in the air before it gradually disappeared. A multitude of warriors started to engage in a discussion. This energy shock had been ongoing for the 8th time, and it came up once every 2 to 3 days. This phenomenon confirmed many powerhouses' belief that an amazing treasure was present. It's the 8th time. It should come up again one more time before Divine Dragon Palace opens. I'm lucky that I made it in time. Tian quickly unleashed his motion skill before he soon arrived at a spot near the lake. As he looked at the lake, he was in shock to find that many warriors were gathered there. The number of warriors amassed surpassed 1,000, and each of them was at least a tier 5 or 6 warrior spirit. Not to mention, there were also 9 warrior king powerhouses there. A while back, Tian had flown northwest in search of Divine Dragon Palace after taking a break. While on the way, he encountered several top geniuses who also took flight in the same direction. Based on his experience, he was right on the money in terms of direction. He had eliminated demonic beasts and slaughtered blundering warrior spirits along the way. I wonder what treasure is hidden in Divine Dragon Palace. Even Nine Yang Sacred Lord took it to heart, Tian mumbled to himself with smiling eyes. From where he was, he spotted disciples from Misty Pavilion, Green Jade Sect, Sky Cloud Sect, and Radiant Sect. The warriors from Sky Dragon Empire were, no doubt, fewer amid these masters. Even Radiant Sect and Green Jade Sect were second-rates compared to other empires. After making a note of all the powerful warriors, Tian sought out a hidden spot to meditate and rest. The Divine Dragon Palace should make an appearance when the next sign presented itself. The wait was 3 days. 3 days had passed before the calm lake churned in turbulence. Wham! Whoosh! An impressive energy soared in the sky. This time, the entire hidden dragon isle shook as the lake waters towered sky-high following the energy. Many nearby warriors were swept into the lake waters, and in the blink of an eye, the mighty water pillar took the lives of these warrior spirits. Aghast, the remaining warriors withdrew to a distance in a hurry. This energy was stronger than the former 8 times. With this, Tian opened his eyes that were twinkling in excitement. The astonishing energy had blown up the lake, and it uncovered a silvery radiance in the center. Although the radiance was the size of 10 feet, it grew more brilliant by the second. Soon, the 10-foot-tall silvery radiance had expanded to 1,000 feet in circumference. In fact, it was not a radiance but a silver palace. This silver palace of 100 yards in height towered amid the lake. Given its silver exterior, it was unknown what was used to construct the palace. The palace had a pitch-black gate that was about 30 feet tall and 15 feet wide. Divine Dragon Palace has appeared. Divine Dragon Palace finally made its appearance. Silence. Everybody, think of a way to open the gate. Let's join forces, or else our wait for a century would go to waste. Many warriors bubbled over with excitement. After all, they were here, on Hidden Dragon Isle that only opened once every century, for Divine Dragon Palace. Now that Divine Dragon Palace was within reach, they had to figure out a way to get in. Wham! It was only 10 minutes later that the soaring energy and churning lake surface resumed its peacefulness. However, a demonic energy spread about as if a bomb was detonated in the air. The demonic energy had a crushing effect on countless warriors. With that said, powerhouses who were inferior to Tier 5 warrior spirits were immediately crushed to death. Appalled, the remaining warriors quickly pulled away to a distance, but to their disappointment, they found that it was impossible to make a dash outside 3 miles. What a terrifying demonic energy! This is the repression of an almighty demonic master. Hiss! Many surviving warriors stared at the repression in the air with pale faces. This repression of such omnipotent demonic energy was difficult to fend off from the outside, let alone inside Divine Dragon Palace. It's so powerful that the weak who are lower than a Tier 5 warrior spirit would be crushed to death. Under the oppression of this repression, Tian was too forced to withdraw from his cultivation. He stared at the repression in shock. This repression was almost substantial, taking the form of a heavy mist. However, the heaven and earth reincarnation in his body, as well as his powerful flaming sacred body, were unaffected by this repression. With the immemorial ice crystal and fire dragon's heart dissolved in his body, his improved constitution built up resistance towards the repression. Within his vision, he could only see 30-odd Tier 9 peak in perfection warrior spirits, 17 warrior kings, and 10-odd masters who were equipped with treasures left by the lake. Sigh. Tian could only sigh at the deaths of low-level warriors from Sky Cloud's sect and other sects in Sky Dragon Empire. With the majority under Tier 5 warrior spirits crushed to death, there were only a handful of warriors who were left. At the lakeside, the 60-odd supermasters stared solemnly at Divine Dragon Palace. These masters would be the strongest existence to enter Hidden Dragon Isle. Chapter 46, Onyx Equipment, Purple-Green Sword. Chapter 46, Onyx Equipment, Purple-Green Sword. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. These are all garbage. After cultivating, Tian opened the storage sacks he collected and began to make an inventory of his gain. The contents were mostly lousy pills and weapons, but there he had also found a century and 5-year-old medicinal supply along with some demonic beasts' inner vitals in there. He was no longer swayed by spiritual stones and such because he was in need of a convenient weapon. Having lost the Cloud's startling sword, sky-perishing spear, and the pill tripod for pill refinery, he was now left empty-handed. Huh! What a strong spiritual chi fluctuation! An exquisite tiny sword appeared before his eyes. Assuming a blend of purple and green color, this tiny sword released a heavy spiritual chi and an oppressive force rushed toward Tian. Mediocre onyx equipment, purple-green sword. The moment his divine mindfulness forced its way into the blade, Tian received information that this weapon was an onyx equipment called purple-green sword. He could not believe that it was an onyx equipment. Who would have thought that after losing a peerless spiritual equipment, he would gain an onyx equipment in turn? A mediocre onyx equipment fared significantly better in strength compared to the spiritual equipment. Ha, ha! Tian burst out laughing. This made his trip to Hidden Dragon Isle worthwhile even if he were to return with empty pockets. Not to mention, he now had a mediocre onyx equipment in hand. With this onyx equipment, the force driven by the astounding sword technique's first form, Bright Moon in Soft Breeze, would be more powerful than Vast Obscure Extermination. Purple-green sword, refine. Following a yell, Tian gestured a few motions before he shot out a curl of his fresh blood. His blood essence then formed a bloody screen that swiftly wrapped around the purple-green sword. With this, the purple-green sword struggled to get out of the wrapper. Nevertheless, the struggle was futile in the face of Tian's amazing soul and divine mindfulness. Even a warrior king could not stack up against his divine mindfulness. Since Nine Yang's Sacred Lord's surreal figure was sustained by his soul and divine mindfulness, one could well imagine how powerful his divine mindfulness was. Even if Tian did not inherit much of it, warrior kings were still no match to him. Swoosh! 10 minutes later, the refining of the purple-green sword was a success. Tian extended his arm to grab a hold of the sword whilst circulating his body of true qi. Immediately, the purple-green sword enlarged to a yard in length and released a heavy stench of repression. This was the repression of a weapon, the repression of an onyx equipment. The repression released from this onyx equipment is capable of restraining Tier 2 warrior spirits and below. Tian was ecstatic over this omnipotent repression. He could even sense the fluctuating repression coming from the purple-green sword with just a gentle swing of his arm. His confidence instantly inflated. Astounding sword technique, Bright Moon in Soft Breeze. Astounding sword technique, Vast Obscure Extermination. Astounding sword technique, Thousand Shadows of Fluttering Flowers. Swish swish, swish swish. Clang, clang. Unable to stifle his confidence, he left the cave in a flash and brought his astounding sword technique to full play. He had already mastered the first two forms, but it had never crossed his mind that he could spontaneously demonstrate the third form after demonstrating the preceding moves. It was hard not to rejoice over the fact that after multiple failed attempts, he had eventually cultivated the third form. As blade auras crisscrossed in the air, a mass of weaving blade shadows and auras ripped the atmosphere to shreds. He was more in shock to find that the atmosphere was shattering like a mirror. The air within a 10-yard radius was like pieces of broken mirror, and Li Lingtian's mind was blown at the magnificent display of force. So this is the 1,000 shadows of fluttering flowers. Li Lingtian was in awe at the presence of the shattered dimension. With an Onyx equipment demonstrating the 1,000 shadows of fluttering flowers, the warrior king powerhouses will be dead, ha. The confident smile deepened on his face. The Onyx equipment itself was powerful, but when matched with great skill, nobody would be able to fend off the move. Heaven falls, earth rends. Bam! After storing his purple-green sword, he circulated his body of true qi before he smashed his fist onto the ground. With Li Lingtian as the center, the ground shook and exploded into multiple cracks. The ground was flipped upside down within a 100-yard radius. Ice Vitality Divine Fist. Hold. At this moment, the shattered dimension and chaos on Earth immediately froze inside a 10,000 square feet glacier. Flaming Divine Fist. Conception. Clang. Once the Flaming Divine Fist had reached conception, it was no longer an Amber Tier inferior skill. A skill of this level could not be measured as it was neither an Amber Tier nor Onyx Tier. However, it was definitely stronger than the Amber Tier and a regular Onyx Tier since the degree of force had reached that of an Onyx Tier superior skill. It was unimaginable for the Flaming Divine Fist to put an end to the Ice Vitality Divine Fist under normal circumstances. Nevertheless, succeeding in conception would see the glacier resolved in a single fist. This was also all part of Li Lingtian's plan. Otherwise, even an Earth Tier skill, let alone an Amber Tier skill, would not be able to abolish the glacier formed by his immemorial ice crystal. Heaven and Earth Conflagration. With the glacier gone, the Earth resumed its peace while the dimension stabilized. However, it was at this moment when the temperature that surrounded Li Lingtian rose steeply within the range of 100 yards, reducing everything to ashes. As palm print after palm print was unleashed, a sea of fire emerged before it seared the forest within a 100-yard radius to nothing. With the ground set on fire as well, the land melted into lava. Raging flames towered to a height of 100 yards in the sky. Standing amid the flames, Li Lingtian was the master in control, and a confident smile slipped past his lips. Retrieve. At a wave of his arms, the flames disappeared into his body in the blink of an eye. The endless flow of spiritual qi in the surrounding was quickly absorbed. Tier 5 Warrior Spirit, Breakthrough. The spiritual qi between heaven and earth formed a vacuum after it burned up in flames. As Li Lingtian retrieved the flames, he too absorbed the spiritual qi at an insane rate. He then circulated the heaven and earth reincarnation in his body to convert this endless flow of spiritual qi to true qi. Once the true qi reached the pinnacle of Tier 4, it was the moment of breakthrough. Hence, the powerful true qi made a quantum leap past Tier 4 to Tier 5 warrior spirit state. Just as his true qi depleted, he had achieved the peak of Tier 5 warrior spirit state. Hidden Dragon Isle was boundless and vast. No one knew exactly how huge it was. Hundreds of centuries had passed in Hidden Dragon Isle, but no one had been able to uncover the isle in its entirety. Although 10,000 warriors scrambled in when it opened once every 100 years, not many medicinal supplies and demonic beasts were brought out. On the contrary, the quality of the herbs became better over the years and the demonic beasts had grown stronger. Second-tier demonic beasts roamed everywhere while third-tier demonic beasts were a common sight. Around a usually quiet lake of 30 miles in size, gathered several hundred great warriors. These warriors were at least a Tier 6 or 7 warrior spirit. There were also many Tier 9 warrior spirits and a handful of warrior kings. Yao Tianxiong, so you're saying that Divine Dragon Palace is here? Zhou Tianjiao gazed at the 30-mile-sized lake. With no hint of activity, it was peaceful and quiet at the lake. He was puzzled at the absence of Divine Dragon Palace. That's right. Look at how the 4 mountains surrounding this lake and the size of this lake, doesn't it resemble the map? Are you doubting the sect leader? Taking a look around with a watchful eye, Yao Tianxiong answered with confidence before he turned his gaze to Zhou Tianjiao and other warriors. He darted a sharp stare at Zhou Tianjiao. Sect leader Nangong would not become a warrior emperor had he not entered Hidden Dragon Isle the last time. There should be a number of people who are aware of Divine Dragon Palace's location. Look at them, bursting with confidence, Zhou Tianjiao replied without a care in the world. Many knew of Divine Palace in Hidden Dragon Isle, but none had gained access to the palace before. The real treasure of Hidden Dragon Isle was inside Divine Dragon Palace. Since they could not infiltrate the palace, they could only search the perimeters for medicinal supply while they faced the attacks of high-level demonic beasts. Both of them were warrior kings, super geniuses of the Tian Empire, who had become warrior king powerhouses before the age of 30. While the duo was in conversation, countless warriors by the lake felt a throb that stirred a discussion amongst them. As they looked up to the sky, they saw a large airship approaching in a swoosh. Chapter 47, Killing a Warrior King. Chapter 47, Killing a Warrior King. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Is there anyone who would like to enter Divine Dragon Palace? If you wish to gain access into Divine Dragon Palace, we should open the gate together. Don't even dream about taking advantage. Take your pick between opening Divine Dragon Palace's gate or get lost, or else. In a flash, Tian Wuji slapped a magical spell on his body and he was immediately suspended in the air. Darting a sharp gaze around, Tian Wuji shouted. That's right, we should team up to open Divine Dragon Palace's gate to get inside or leave us be. Yao Tianxiong too stood up. As a warrior of Tian Empire, even if he did not see eye to eye with Tian Wuji, the second prince, he should not bring shame to Tian Empire. For a moment, 6 warrior kings of Tian Empire stood up, followed by warrior kings of the Southern Empire and Northern Dusk Empire. Warriors of every empire stood behind the warrior kings. They were either Tier 9 peak in perfection warrior spirits or those in possession of treasures. Sky Dragon Empire, are you the only one this time? Soon, masters of 4 empires split up. The representatives of the 4 mysterious superclans, Duanmu, Shengguan, Dongfang, and Baiming were all warrior king powerhouses. However, as part of the Eastern Spirit Greenland's 4 great empires, Sky Dragon Empire only had Zhou Qingqing, a woman, as a warrior king. Behind her stood 6 Tier 9 warrior spirits and one of them was Dongfang Qingyu. The masters snickered at Sky Dragon Empire's talents. In this dog-eat-dog world and as Sky Dragon Empire's supersect, not a single super disciple at the level of a warrior king was in sight. It's only me. Any objections? Zhou Qingqing's expression hardened. She was a genius disciple who represented Sky Dragon Empire at this time and place. In fact, there were only 8 of them from Sky Dragon Empire while the other empires had dozens of survivors, including 7 to 8 warrior kings at least. The threats from Tian Wuji and Yao Tianxiong brought forward gifted warriors, who wished to enter Divine Dragon Palace, to the lakeside. There were about 300 of them. No objections. However, if Sky Dragon Empire wants to gain access to Divine Dragon Palace, you're only entitled to a limited amount of resources inside, Southern Empire's Bei Ao blurted coldly. Although nobody was aware of the number of treasures inside, it would be strange not to take advantage of the weak Sky Dragon Empire by setting a limit. Ha, that's right. You're the only ones from Sky Dragon Empire. You won't be enough to pave the way for us. Sky Dragon Empire is really going downhill. I think it's better if you merge into our 3 great empires. There are no geniuses in Sky Dragon Empire, only trash. It seems like it will be the end of Sky Dragon Empire after this. 2. The super geniuses by the lakeside roared with laughter, leaving Zhou Qingqing's team in rage. Nevertheless, it was not the right place or time to step on these people's toes. No one from the outside would know if they were to face massacre here. Hundreds and thousands of warriors afar joined in mocking Sky Dragon Empire, but no one from Sky Dragon Empire dared to voice out. In the law of the jungle, retaliation without the ability to fight back was a surefire road to hell. You're not saying a word, so I take that you agree to it, Tian Wuji commented arrogantly. Now, Tianjin Empire had one less rival. Sky Dragon Empire could simply be disregarded. Tian Wuji, don't cross the line. Red and blue in the face, Dongfang Qingyu's body quivered. He was on the verge of running amok. Ha, Dongfang Qingyu, as a tier 6 warrior spirit, you sure have the balls to butt in. I'll let you rest eternally if you don't shut up. Darting a stare at Dongfang Qingyu, Bei Ao surged his body vigor and sent his powerful demonic energy to press down onto Dongfang Qingyu's chest. Tui. Dongfang Qingyu spat a mouthful of blood before he collapsed to the ground. His face was as white as a sheet. 10,000 demon sex warriors were feeling right at home amidst this astounding demonic energy. Caught in a fortuitous opportunity, this warrior king powerhouse had struck his repression and wounded Dongfang Qingyu. Bei Ao, kneel before me. A faint voice was heard. Although the tone sounded indolent, many warriors were dumbfounded at such an occasion. Bei Ao was a warrior king, a tier 2 warrior king. Moreover, the repression coming from the demonic energy had further pushed his tier 2 warrior king state to tier 3. With these few empires and mysterious clans occupying the lakeside, who would dare challenge a warrior king? Following the statement, a youth in white emerged within everyone's sight and they were taken aback. Without taking any measures, a tier 5 warrior spirit eased his way into the demonic energy's repression and had the guts to provoke Bei Ao, a warrior king. Junior Brotherly. Junior Brotherly. It's him. Junior Brotherly, get out. Many of whom recognized Li Lingtian were taken by surprise. Realizing that it was Li Lingtian, Dongfang Qingyu immediately told him to leave, knowing that he would not survive against these warrior kings. Don't even think about escaping. Your only choice is to leave this place dead for trying my patience, Bei Ao exclaimed with a dirty look on his face. How could a tier 5 warrior spirit trash command him to get down on his knees? Moreover, Li Lingtian had insulted him in front of so many super geniuses. I told you to kneel, are you mother * king deaf or dumb? Do you understand the words coming out of my mouth? Li Lingtian trod step by step ahead until he reached the lakeside. His cold eyes were fixated on Bei Ao. He deserved death for harming a Sky Cloud sect disciple. He would not be bothered if it were anything else. However, bounds were overstepped when the empires of Eastern Spirit Greenland made a mockery out of Sky Dragon Empire. A powerhouse would never turn his back on his motherland. As a young man of the 21st century, even though he was without cash, looks, or love, he was patriotic. No shame should be put upon weaker nations. This was a matter of principle. Regardless of the circumstance, he would not stand by his nation to be insulted. Although Sky Dragon Empire did not have much of a relationship with him, he had transmigrated to this empire after all. Sky Dragon Empire was his home. What use was his cultivation if he were to sit on the sidelines and watch his empire suffer affront? Ha! The crowd burst into an uproar. The warriors were at a loss to see a useless tier 5 warrior spirit of Sky Dragon Empire boldly challenge and fling abuse at a warrior king. Raw! I will tear you apart today or my name isn't Bei Ao. Blowing a fuse, Bei Ao circulated his demonic energy. Amid the repression from the demonic energy, disciples of 10,000 demons sect were able to easily unleash skills like duck to water. As a horrifying vigor rose steeply, Bei Ao pounced at Li Lingtian like a wild beast. The way he saw it, One easy strike should take out this tier 5 warrior spirit trash. I told you to kneel, you better listen. Watching as a tall and sturdy figure pounced over with an air of ripping vigor, Tian sneered at the vicious attack coming his way. Warriors who were staring at Tian and Bei Ao from afar had foreseen the outcome. The tier 5 warrior spirit Tian would be torn apart and meet his end. Countless powerhouses held in contempt of Tian's pretentious attitude, yet no one realized the change in Tian's vigor. Ah, ah. As a silver glow flickered in air, 2 blood-curdling screams echoed throughout the land. For one to let out such a wail, the pain inflicted must be to a certain degree. Wham! Following a dull crash, Bei Ao's sturdy frame crash-landed in front of Tian. However, Tian remained unscathed while Bei Ao fell on his knees before him. What is going on? Why did he listen? He kneeled. No way, a warrior king kneeling before a tier 5 warrior spirit? Bei Ao was going to kill Tian in a single move. How did he end up kneeling towards Tian? He had forced such amazing vigor yet ended up kneeling. 2. For a moment, countless warriors were like fish out of water by the visual impact. The entire scene was so unusual that it took several seconds before they found their voices. Junior brother Li's earlier move was strange. He pulled his sword, but his speed surpassed the naked eye. He had crippled Bei Ao with his blade aura. With surprise and admiration, Misty Pavilion's Lu Yi and another disciple exchanged their views in muffled voices. It was possible to cripple a warrior king in a single move. I told you to kneel, you should have listened earlier. Bam! Tian stared at Bei Ao with a beaming grin. There was nothing in his hands as the purple-green sword was kept away. Deep down, he was pleasantly surprised by the might of this sword. Bei Ao was crippled yet not a single strand of the Onyx equipment's repression had leaked. Tian then raised his arm and unleashed his flaming divine fist before he pulled a punch at Bei Ao. Bei Ao, a 10,000 demons sect warrior king equipped with great defense, was single-handedly burnt to crisps in the face of a flaming divine first in its conception. Strong defense and yet this is all you can do. What garbage. Senior brother Dongfang, take a step back. Leave this to me. Tian replied indifferently while he curled his lip at the scorched Bei Ao in a distance. He drew near Dongfang Qingyu and handed 2 10,000 spirit pills to him. Junior brother, be careful. I am incompetent and have let down Sky Cloud's sect. With gratitude, Dongfang Qingyu accepted the pills and walked out. He had witnessed Tian's ability. If Tian was able to prevail over Duan Muqing, a tier 6 warrior spirit when he was a mere tier 9 warrior, what was he now that he became a tier 6 warrior spirit? The impeccable advancement of Tian's cultivation was a testament to his menacing competence. All of you here, is there anyone else who is unwilling to accept this? Even if you refuse to accept, your only choice is to sit and take it. Tian waited until Dongfang Qingyu left before he turned to the 10,000 demon sect's masters. He then swept a glance over to the powerhouses by the lake until finally, his gaze fell on Tian Wujian. Hiss. The crowd broke out into another uproar. Not only had he crippled Bei Ao in a single move, using the trashiest flaming divine fist to take down Bei Ao, but now he was making waves with all the powerhouses. The world had gone mad. Although this man had asked whether anyone remained defiant, they had to hold it in even if one refused to accept the result. This was blatant tyranny. Chapter 48, 1,000 Shadows of Fluttering Flowers. Chapter 48, 1,000 Shadows of Fluttering Flowers. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Tian, you have crossed the line, Shen Tian of Tianjin Empire's divine sword sect blurted coldly. Tian had taken a dig at them in the presence of 20-odd warriors and over 100 powerhouses. While others may not have had a clear look at how Li Lingtian defeated Bei Ao, Shen Tian saw it with his own eyes. For Li Lingtian to cripple a warrior king with a sword, it stirred a battle intent within him. The majority of disciples in Divine Sword sect were proficient in swordsmanship due to the powerful might that was driven by sword cultivation. It could be said that rarely anyone of the same tier was a match to these disciples. Having seen Li Lingtian demonstrate his sword technique, Shen Tian now wished to experience his technique firsthand. As a Tier 2 warrior king equipped with Divine Sword Sect's Annihilation Sword, he thought little of Li Lingtian, a mere warrior spirit disciple. Cross the line. Did it occur to you that you've crossed the line when you humiliated my Sky Dragon Empire? If I have indeed crossed the line and got on your nerves, I can only apologize, but let me say this. Yes, I crossed the line, so come bite me, Li Lingtian replied dully. The calm look on his face had the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire hang their heads low in shame. His continued statement left many warriors thinking that Li Lingtian was backing down and looking for an out. However, it had never occurred to them that he would aggravate the situation. Whoa! The warriors may be gobsmacked, but the girls from Misty Pavilion, including Lu Yi, burst into chuckles by this junior brother's humor. Yet in the face of countless masters, Li Lingtian remained collected. Fine, fine, very good. Shen Tian smirked out of rage. He surged his bodily vigor and at the extent of his arm, a 3-foot-long sword emerged. A fierce blade aura immediately hovered over the sword. As the domineering blade aura soared upwards, the sword emitted an annihilating intent. Tyrannical Dragon Sword Technique's annihilation form. With rage burning in his eyes, Shen Tian swung his sword, causing a tremble in the air. As a powerful blade glare was sliced down towards Li Lingtian, many masters on site were ruffled by this luminous light. A Tier 2 warrior king could barely withstand the terrifying force from a warrior king's sword, let alone a Tier 5 warrior spirit. Although the incoming blade glare was within a 5-yard distance from Li Lingtian, he remained still. This left many others taken aback by his reaction as they assumed that Li Lingtian was scared stiff. Where was the same person who crippled Bei Ao in a single move? Why was he staring blankly at the blade glare? You think you're worthy of using a sword before me? Vast obscure extermination, die. Following a calm voice, Li Lingtian stretched his arm and unleashed an astonishing repression in an instant. At the same time, the foot-long purple-green sword in his hand released a domineering repression. An Onyx equipment. A mediocre Onyx equipment. Countless powerhouses gasped upon detecting the purple-green sword's repression. A spiritual equipment was considered quite domineering, yet this Sky Cloud sect's Tier 5 warrior spirit disciple brought out an Onyx equipment. While various powerhouses were caught by surprise, Li Lingtian's purple-green sword sliced through the air. The atmosphere turned rather unusual as a vast obscure extermination chi spread through the air and swiftly headed towards Shen Tian's blade glare in the form of countless sword shreds. Fizz fizz, fizz fizz. There were no explosions, only subtle noises as these sword shreds quickly corroded the mighty blade glare to nothingness. These sword shreds then continued its journey to Shen Tian. Sword shield. Shen Tian was shocked. His tyrannical dragon sword technique proved a great force and was a top-rate skill in Divine Sword Sect. It had never crossed his mind that his warrior king state combined with his Onyx tier skill would be abolished by a Tier 5 warrior spirit disciple. It took great force for a blade aura to transform into shreds. Even a Divine Sword Sect's master could barely achieve such a feat. Since he was well aware of the shredded blade aura's might, Shen Tian dared not take any chances. So, he drew his sword and soon a sword screen emerged. Swish swish, swish swish. Amid the collision between the sword shred and sword screen, many warriors stared blankly at Li Lingtian and Shen Tian. With both of them demonstrating such sword techniques, it became these warriors' primary experience in witnessing the impact coming from sword techniques. Thousand shadows of fluttering flowers, die. Li Lingtian was brewing with killing intent. The vast obscure extermination was incapable of finishing Tian, a warrior king, and since the boat was already rocked, Tian had to be wiped out in an attempt to nip in the bud. At a casual swing of the purple-green sword in his hand, countless blade auras burst out in a radiant eruption. These hundreds and thousands of fallen leaves like blade auras were a force to be reckoned with altogether. Tyrannical dragon sword technique's invincible form. Tian felt as though he had shot himself in the foot. This warrior spirit disciple was so strong that his sword shield could only be subjected to defense. At the sight of his opponent's crushing blow, Tian was overwhelmed with terror. This feeling he had was as though he was faced with a warrior ascendant. So, Tian circulated the true qi from his whole body before he drew his sword to numerous domineering blade aura. Immediately, these blade auras came into blows with Lilingtian's thousand shadows of fluttering flowers. Bam! The astounding demonic energy's repression was ripped apart by the explosion. As Lilingtian's body swayed, he quickly circulated his breeze technique and retreated a few steps until he forced a secured footing. Ah! Tui! Following a loud cry, Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was hurled up to the sky before it slammed down on the ground. With that, the colliding blade auras gradually receded. Dozens of blade auras had penetrated Tian's attack and pierced through his heart. He was long gone. The lakeside was pin-drop silent as everyone held their breaths. A Sky Cloud Sex warrior spirit disciple had slaughtered 2 warrior king powerhouses in succession. There's finally some peace and quiet. It's time all of you put your heads together to think of a way to open Divine Dragon Palace's gate. Lilingtian's voice broke the lake's silence and pulled many warriors back to reality. In contrast to Lilingtian's indifference, they were all quivering in the knees. This young man was a terrifying existence indeed. Junior Brotherly. Junior Brotherly. Lilingtian then walked towards the warriors of Sky Dragon Empire. When he arrived, even Zhou Qingqing, who was a warrior king, nodded in greeting. The other warriors greeted Lilingtian as well, to which he nodded in a polite response. He then closed his eyes and did not say a word. What a powerful attack! A warrior king was killed in a single move. He's going to be in trouble for killing Divine Sword Sect's genius disciple. Sky Cloud Sect will suffer Divine Sword Sect's crushing blow. Shush, at least no one can defeat him here. For a moment, many warriors whispered in discussions. Although the voices were soft, Lilingtian heard them all. He smirked inwardly. The fact that he was bold enough to kill a genius of Divine Sword Sect was evidence that he was not afraid of Divine Sword Sect. Let's begin by figuring a way to break the gate. Otherwise, our true qi would be exhausted before we get in. Death will be waiting for us then. Tian Wuji took a glance at Lilingtian. He was not going to be hasty by striking Lilingtian. Although he thought nothing of Lilingtian, a Tier 5 warrior spirit, he should refrain from stepping on anyone's toes with his enemies lurking around. The commanding tone prompted every warrior on site to crack their heads on opening this gate. Only by breaking through this gate could they enter Divine Dragon Palace. Make way, let me take a look. A young man walked out and strode forward. Many warriors did not say a word at the appearance of this youth. This was the super genius of Southern Empire's Nine Alps. Nine Alps was known to all for its powerful formation teachings, and they were an unrivaled presence of such in the Eastern Spirit Greenland. There was no one more authoritative than him here. Han Zhong hid his glee as he cast his gaze on numerous warriors who were in line and standing aside. Here, he was only considered below average in terms of cultivation level as a Tier 6 warrior spirit. Nevertheless, he reigned supreme in the way of formation. Chapter 49, Extortion. Chapter 49, Extortion. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Heavenly Mystery Unravel. Han Zhong carefully examined Divine Dragon Palace's gate. With the constant change of expression on his face, it was obvious he did not know where to begin with this gate. After a moment's wait, Han Zhong realized that many masters behind him had turned impatient. Hence, he swung his arms furiously in wielding a disc before spell after spells were cast over it. Suddenly, the foot-long disc emitted a radiant glow that had a hint of mystery to it which caused some of the warrior kings behind to gasp in admiration. Idiot, way to put on a show. Li Lingtian smirked at the sight of Han Zhong dabbling about the disc. Only he knew the way to open the gate. Others were delusional to think they could open it. What did you say? At the sound of Li Lingtian's voice, numerous warriors turned their gaze to him. They were about to blow their top but held it in when they noticed that it was Li Lingtian. I said he can't open this gate. He's merely trying to find himself an out. Li Lingtian answered in a flat tone while his gaze drifted upwards. The demonic energy's repression was thinning in the atmosphere. By the looks of it, the trip to Hidden Dragon Isle would be in vain if the gate could not be opened. Wham! Poof! As soon as Li Lingtian said that, the disc in Han Zhong's hands fired a radiance towards the gate. Then at the sound of an explosion, the gate was enveloped in a giant light barrier that repelled the disc's radiance. Han Zhong was physically blown away by the repelling force. It tossed him 100 yards away before he collapsed onto the ground like a dead pig. By the sheer stillness, it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Isn't there anyone who can open the gate? Our efforts will be in vain if we can't enter Divine Dragon Palace in 10 minutes, Li Lingtian shouted with his eyes fixed on Han Zhong afar. Li Lingtian was not going to give it in just yet. Even if he knew the way in, he was not going to let these guys have it the easy way. What did you say? In vain? Isn't Divine Dragon Palace here? Puzzled, the few warrior king stared at Li Lingtian. Although Li Lingtian was only a warrior spirit disciple, no one dared to treat him like one. Are you blind? Can't you sense the weakening of demonic energy's repression? This means that Divine Dragon Palace is about to disappear, Li Lingtian answered with disdain as he pointed towards the sky. Compared to the beginning, the current repression had declined by a whole lot. After listening to Li Lingtian's statement, the warriors who had retreated 3 miles away were instantly intrigued. Although this meant that they would now be able to withstand the repression that was on a decline, they were held back by the sight of the warrior kings and first-rate masters. Is there anyone else who can open this gate? Otherwise, we just went on a wild goose chase. Anxious, Tian, Wuji and Xiao both cried out. Since they were both warrior kings, they could sense the change in the atmosphere. They had waited for a long time yet no one spoke up. This was because no one dared to volunteer after Han Zhong, the formation master, was thrown back by the impact. Garbage, a bunch of garbage. I'll do it then. Grinning inside, Li Lingtian took large strides forward and stopped 10 yards in front of Divine Dragon Palace. He stood erected on a spiritual equipment. You can open this gate? Well, hurry up then. Tian, Wuji and Xiao were dumbfounded to see Li Lingtian come forth. Sure, Li Lingtian had skills, but it was a different story in dealing with the gate. Hee, I can open this gate, but... Li Lingtian chuckled at the 300-odd warriors, and his eyes revealed slight mischief. But what? Get straight to the point. After opening this gate, you'll be the first to enter. They lost their patience at Li Lingtian's conditions. However, it was not the time to get on Li Lingtian's bad side. Putting his ability aside, only Li Lingtian was the only one who came forth when no one volunteered to open the gate. I can open this gate for you, but those who wish to enter Divine Dragon Palace are required to pay 100,000 spiritual stones or else I won't bother wasting my breath. Li Lingtian may be speaking in an indifferent tone, but the words coming from his mouth left countless warriors gobsmacked. Fuck that, it's daylight robbery. 100,000 spiritual stones, do you think spiritual stones are plain rocks? You have gone mad thinking about spiritual stones. 100,000 spiritual stones. That's enough to buy out every premium spiritual equipment. For a moment, Many gasped in exclamation. 100,000 spiritual stones were the annual income of a small-scale sect. An inner sect disciple of Sky Cloud's sect only received 100 spiritual stones on a monthly basis. Even for an inner sect disciple, 100,000 spiritual stones required the accumulation of 100 years without deduction on food and other usages. Nevertheless, those present on site were geniuses of the Eastern Spirit Greenland supersects and clans. Hence, they were never short of spiritual stones. Li Tian owed it to himself to take the chance in extorting them. Junior brother Li has lost his mind. He's too cool. He must be the first to charge everyone spiritual stones. 100,000 spiritual stones. There are over 300 of us here. Our Misty Pavilion doesn't possess that much even in a year. Many disciples from Sky Dragon Empire were surprised and stunned. A Tier 5 warrior spirit was extorting countless masters for spiritual stones. He sure had the guts. You have 10 seconds to think it over. HL leave once the 10 seconds are up and... I won't be opening the gate then. Li Tian maintained an indifferent attitude, unconcerned of the dirty looks he was receiving from these supermasters. Based on his 21st century wisdom and understanding of human behavior, he was able to grasp the mentality of these super geniuses. Fine, 100,000, I'll give it to you. 100,000. I'm not short of spiritual stones, consider it a reward. My Tian Jin Empire has plenty of spiritual stones. I'll give you 100,000. My Northern Dusk Empire is never lacking in spiritual stones. Come on, hand over the spiritual stones if you want to enter. I'll kill anyone who is holding us back. Speechless, Xiong Hao shot a menacing look at Li Tian. He was the first to take a stand and tossed 100,000 spiritual stones to Li Tian. The rest of the warriors then followed suit, forking out their spiritual stones reluctantly. Since the supersects, mysterious clans, and imperial prince were loaded, they could easily afford 100,000 spiritual stones. Moreover, anyone who entered Hidden Dragon Isle was familiar with slaughtering others for their goods. Take your time, one by one. I'm not in a hurry. Ignoring these guys who were missing out yet still tried to keep up appearances, Li Tian retrieved the large number of spiritual stones and kept them in his storage sack. In the distance, Lui's group remained appalled. It had never crossed their minds that a disciple of Sky Dragon Empire would make a fool out of these arrogant supermasters. Humph, I've given you the spiritual stones now, so if you can't open this gate, I'll be the first to kill you. You must be the one who killed my divine sword sex Su Tian. Watch your back, Yan Ming responded coldly. He was incredibly surprised to find Su Tian dead, but he immediately connected the dots when he saw Li Tian unleash the domineering sword technique. It was the doing of this young man. Not bad, you're all rich. I've never seen this many spiritual stones, hee. Li Tian looked at the dozen storage sacks in front of him that were all filled to the brim with spiritual stones. Over 36 million spiritual stones, he would not gain as much even in Sky Cloud's sect in a year. 10 seconds. 100 seconds had passed. Are you playing us a fool? Li Tian's laid-back demeanor struck a thought in the few warrior kings. Li Tian mentioned from the start that the gate would not be opened after 10 seconds, yet over 100 seconds had passed. Did he just toy with them? I mean it when I said I can open it, but... Li Tian planned it out in his mind. He should make a run for it if he failed to open the gate later. Otherwise, he would be dead meat in the face of all these supermasters. Chapter 50, Pseudo Dragon Beast's Inner Vital. Chapter 50, Pseudo Dragon Beast's Inner Vital. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. But? What the F***ck is with the buts? You have received the spiritual stones, so if you don't open this gate, be prepared to regret being born to this world. 100,000 spiritual stones were their entire asset, and Li Tian had milked them dry. There were a few warriors who did not have the lump sum, so Li Lingtian accepted tens of thousands from them, draining them to their last drop. Yet, Li Lingtian was still delaying the situation with his "but." It would be odd if they did not flip their lid. After all, they had already pictured dismembering Li Lingtian in their minds. The key to opening this gate is on the second prince. He's aware of it but is reluctant. If you want to put the blame on someone, it should be on the second prince. Li Lingtian pointed at Tian Wuji. With rage, the warriors turned their gaze to the second prince, Tian Wuji. Li Lingtian, I did you a great favor by giving you spiritual stones. Are you trying to seek an out because you can't open the gate? Tell me then, how can I open the gate? Tian Wuji was taken aback. Even as a prince of Tianjin Empire, he would die facing this many warriors. His anger had reached a boiling point. Yeah, how can the second prince open the gate? Don't bother thinking about looking for a way out of this. If the second prince can open the gate, would he fork out those spiritual stones in the first place? A few warrior kings were displeased to be played a fool, yet they had to hold it together. It was a god*mn awful feeling. The second prince's 100,000 spiritual stones are only a fraction of his treasures. I'm sure he would rather pay with spiritual stones. Moreover, he's not the only one paying. You would all reap the benefits if you were to take out the treasure, Li Lingtian answered with a smile. Since his powerful divine mindfulness and soul had once sighted the pseudo-dragon beast, he could remember the demonic beast's chi. Since the integration of his souls, his divine mindfulness had grown stronger. He had detected the pseudo-dragon beast on the second prince much earlier, but it seemed to be contained in some treasure. What is it? Yan Ming blurted coldly. With his cold eyes glancing from the second prince and over to Li Lingtian, Yan Ming surged his bodily vigor. The omnipotent vigor of a Tier 4 warrior king had many masters palpitating with fear. The inner vital of a pseudo-dragon beast is key to opening Divine Dragon Palace's gate. Take a look at the slot on the gate if you don't believe me. We must hurry if we want to open the gate, or else all would be in vain. Li Lingtian pointed at the gate. There was a knuckle-sized slot, about the size of a 4th-tier demonic beast's inner vital, on the gate. He trusted Nine Yang Sacred Lord's words because he would not lie to him. After all, Nine Yang Sacred Lord was him, and he was Nine Yang Sacred Lord. That's right. That's right, it's the slot for a 4th-tier demonic beast's inner vital. How did you know it's for the pseudo-dragon beast's inner vital? Are you bluffing? The few warrior kings scanned the gate with their divine mindfulness. When they realized that it was as Li Lingtian had described, they began to presume it was true. I know a thing or two as I have cultivated a type of mechanism art. It's not some formation on the gate but a numerological mechanism. The pseudo-dragon beast's inner vital is required to open Divine Dragon Palace's gate. There, I've given you the method, so opening the gates will rest on you now. Having said that, Li Lingtian's eyes fixated on the second prince. It had nothing to do with numerological mechanisms, as Nine Yang Sacred Yang was the one who told him the method of getting in. Second prince, for the sake of entering Divine Dragon Palace, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do. Your Highness the second prince, you should hand the pseudo-dragon beast over. Although it's a 4th-tier pseudo-dragon beast, treasures are abundant within the palace. Surely, the beast can't compare in value. Are you trying to keep it a secret? We wouldn't have lost that many spiritual stones if you brought out the pseudo-dragon beast earlier. With the second prince, Tian Wuji under fire, Li Lingtian became an irrelevant presence. Ah, Li Lingtian, I want to tear you to pieces. Tian Wuji erupted his body of vigor. Not only did he lose 100,000 spiritual stones, but he was also humiliated. Of course, he was ballistic to be made a sitting duck. A 4th-tier pseudo-dragon beast was comparable to a warrior ascendant but proved to be more practical than a warrior ascendant on the battlefield. However, he now had no choice but to hand out the pseudo-dragon beast under such circumstances. Second prince, I'll be honest, you should take out the pseudo-dragon beast for everyone's sake. We will be grateful to your highness the second prince, Li Lingtian said with a faint smile, oblivious to the second prince's burning rage. Putting the question on whether he could fight a tier 2 peak warrior king aside, escaping was an easy feat for Li Lingtian. Tui. Tian Wuji spat a mouthful of blood. He had never seen such a shameless person who could stir such rage in him. Pale in the face, the second prince was so enraged that he spat a mouthful of blood. If his eyes could kill, Li Lingtian would have been dead for over tens of thousands of times now. Fine, I'll bring out the pseudo-dragon beast, but you will be the ones to kill it. Nevertheless, he kept a cool head. As Li Lingtian had remarkable skills, he would not gain an advantage if he were to act rashly. Besides, he stood no chance against all these lurking enemies. His only choice was to bring out the pseudo-dragon beast. Let's team up to kill the pseudo-dragon beast, Yao Tianxiong cried out. With that, all warriors, kings and warrior spirits formed a large circle as they waited for Tian Wuji to release the pseudo-dragon beast. Roar, roar. Following a vibration in the air, the pseudo-dragon beast appeared out of thin air before these warriors and roared at its prey. Bam! Attack! Wham! The moment the beast made its appearance, countless fierce attacks were slammed onto the pseudo-dragon beast. Under these attacks, the 4th-tier pseudo-dragon beast, an existence equivalent to a warrior ascendant, had exhausted much of its energy before Tian Wuji used a ruse to trap it inside a treasure. As its injuries and demonic energy were restricted from recovery inside the treasure, the pseudo-dragon beast's demonic energy defense gradually vanished the moment it was let out and hit with worse attacks. Wham! After the loud crash, the giant pseudo-dragon beast was killed without putting up a struggle. Although it possessed the ability that was equal to a tier 4 warrior ascendant, it still met its end in the face of several hundred warrior spirits and dozens of warrior kings. Tian Wuji was heartbroken to watch the death of the pseudo-dragon beast. This was his ace in the hole, yet it was taken down just like that. This prompted Tian Wuji to channel his anger onto Li Lingtian. Alright, leave it to me. Li Lingtian had been observing at the side with a hardened expression. The strength of a single warrior king was indeed powerful, and it was even more destructive with their strengths put together. Once the pseudo-dragon beast was dead, Li Lingtian stood up with Zhou Qingqing and the rest followed closely behind him. Several super empires and mysterious clans, excluding the group from Sky Dragon Empire, had given Li Lingtian hundreds of thousands of spiritual stones. The people from Sky Dragon Empire could not afford to, but neither did Li Lingtian request any from them. Instead, they were instructed by Li Lingtian to charge forward once they entered Divine Dragon Palace. Otherwise, they might suffer attacks from other masters. Li Lingtian skillfully retrieved the inner vital. The omnipotence of a 4th-tier demonic beast's inner vital was foretelling from the spread of its heavy demonic energy. If refined, the inner vital could advance one's cultivation by several states, but no warrior spirits or warriors would chance on refining it hastily. This inner vital was also the main ingredient in refining grade 4 or 5 pills. However, its purpose now was to open Divine Dragon Palace's gate. Let me return this to you. Li Lingtian held the inner vital and flew towards the gate, but not before kicking the pseudo-dragon beast's carcass towards the second prince, Tian Wuji. His actions had enraged Tian Wuji as he spat another mouthful of blood. Looking at the slot on the gate, Li Lingtian prayed earnestly for the gate to open. Otherwise, he would end up as the attack target of all the warriors here. If opening the gate was a success, the other warriors would take into consideration his ability despite their desire to kill him. However, these warriors would go berserk and lose their minds over him if it were the contrary. Although Li Lingtian was a foot away from placing the inner vital into the slot, it felt as if it had taken him a year to get there. Click. Fizz fizz. Bam. The moment the inner vital was placed into the slot, the gate let out a piercing sound. A tiny crack then revealed and a destructive demonic energy whizzed past. Ah, ah. Countless warriors in front of the gate were immediately strangled to death by this demonic energy. Even the warrior kings were thrown back by this force, which caused them to sustain cuts all over their body. "Come, let's go in." Li Lingtian pushed forth an arm to hasten the opening of the heavy gate. Once the gate had opened a foot wide, he contorted his body before he made a dash inside. After disappearing into the gate in the blink of an eye, Zhou Qingqing and her group swiftly jumped on the bandwagon. For a while, many warriors poured into the gate in a mad dash. Chapter 51, Dragon Abysm. Chapter 51, Dragon Abysm. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Swish swish, swish swish. Over 300 warriors quickly scrambled through Divine Dragon Palace's gate, even the warriors afar raced over. Li Lingtian arrived into another world the moment he stepped into the gate. In fact, the tiny-looking silver palace from the outside was vast on the inside. Unlike the insides of a palace, it was an independent world with mountains, water, and lakes instead. Besides, the atmosphere carried a rich spiritual qi that had a slight hint of demonic energy. What rich spiritual qi? Li Lingtian was shocked to find quite a substantial spiritual qi. However, he dared not linger long. Since he had stepped on the toes of every possible warrior in Eastern Spirit Greenland, he would definitely meet his end if he encountered them. With that, he bolted 3 yards away in flash and relaxed a little when he did not find any warriors tailing him behind. Roar! At that moment, a piercing violent roar sent a shiver down Li Lingtian's spine before a pair of vicious eyes fixated on him. What the hell, what luck? A 4th tier level 1 copper bell beast. A demonic beast towering at 15 feet and as wide as 30 feet had eyes the size of a bowl while its body released a powerful qi. This 4th tier level 1 beast had similar capabilities to a warrior ascendant. What luck did Li Lingtian have to encounter such an insane demonic beast upon entry? Run, only an idiot would not take off. With his gaze on this powerful copper bell beast, Li Lingtian circulated his body of true qi to unleash his breeze technique to its summit and made a run for it. Only an idiot would stay to fight a 4th tier copper bell beast. Not to mention, warriors were coming ahead. With a demonic beast at the front and warriors in the back, he was not one to be caught in a sandwich. Roar, roar. With sounds of roar thundering behind him, Li Lingtian wished that he could climb on all fours. It took 5 minutes of running before the growling sounds eventually faded. Although the howls may be gone, a powerful explosion ensued. Needless to say, someone had met with another streak of bad luck. Ha! This is a 1,000-year wooded sunflower. A foot-tall tricolor flower was covered in a layer of heavy spiritual qi. Moreover, the area within 10 yards was also clouded with spiritual qi. The flower was about the size of a knuckle and had dark green leaves. There were only 7 leaves on it, but these leaves released the same richness of spiritual qi. Li Lingtian was ecstatic to see this tricolor flower because this was the main ingredient for a grade 5 pill. If sold outside, this 1,000-year herb was worth tens of thousands of spiritual stones. Mine. Without any hesitation, he gestured a spell to retrieve this 1,000-year wooded sunflower. As an apothecary, he was well aware of the method to preserve this medicinal herb. It did not take him long to retrieve this 1,000-year wooded sunflower before he searched for other medicinal supplies. In a place that was rich with spiritual qi, coming across such 100 or 1,000-year herbs was effortless. In the course of a day, Li Lingtian had collected up to 100,000-year medicinal supply, and this made him exhilarated. There were an infinite of 100-year and 500-year medicinal supplies here. Just like that, Li Lingtian began on a journey of searching for medicinal supplies and slaughtering demonic beasts without restraint. There were no 1st and 2nd tier demonic beasts in here, only 3rd and 4th tier demonic beasts. Li Lingtian had more than enough capability to kill 3rd tier demonic beasts, but 4th tier demonic beasts were a different story. Hence, he could only try to steer clear of 4th tier demonic beasts, and in the circumstances which he could not, he would unleash his trump card. As days went by, Tian had lost count of the medicinal supply he had collected in his storage sack. He had at least 70 or 80 third-tier inner vitals as well as 7 inner vitals that belonged to fourth-tier demonic beasts. He made sure to collect valuable inner vitals and blood essence as these were the apothecary's favorite materials. As always, Tian only moved in one direction in search of materials. On this day, he arrived at a humongous mountain range that was entwined with spiritual qi as thick as a fog. What a heavy spiritual qi! That's not right, there seems to be vast demonic energy in the spiritual qi. While he was on his way, the demonic energy grew stronger the deeper he went. With that sign, he knew that he was in the right direction. As he approached the mountain, the demonic energy had reached a threshold. However, this demonic energy was stronger than the demonic energy's repression at the lake outside. Roar! Roar! Just then, the entire hidden dragon isle, including Divine Dragon Palace, trembled at an eruption of roar. Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. This voice was not a sound wave attack, and instead, it carried an astounding repression. Although he had quite the capability, he was as weak as an ant before this voice. The roar of a dragon. It's the draconic might, the real draconic might. Tian trembled deep down. It was unclear whether it was due to excitement or revere, but above this huge mountain range, a golden phantom figure vaguely appeared. He was thrown off at the sight of the golden phantom figure. This was the legendary dragon from his past life, a golden dragon, a powerful golden dragon. All living beings prostrated in worship under the draconic might. In his past life, Cathay's totem was a dragon. Although the belief of dragons' descendants was only a legend, the children of Cathay believed that they were the descendants of a dragon. It had never crossed his mind that he would witness, with his very own eyes, such legend. This was the real golden dragon, even though it was only in the form of a phantom figure. Snarl! After the draconic might sounded for 9 times, the mountain range split open before it swiftly diminished it to an illusion of nothingness. Tian, too, had entered a mirage. A virtual world. This place is all a mirage. At the disappearance of the mountain range, Tian finally caught an inkling of the situation. This mountain range was an illusion, an almighty spell cast by a great master. Tian was in a fragile state of mind after entering the virtual world. Barren land was in plain sight, yet spiritual qi filled every inch of the place. This was the dragon world in ancient times. There were giant skeletal frames around. With each skeleton about 300-odd feet in length, it was not hard to guess the omnipotence of a real dragon prior to its death. All these skeletal frames were also releasing a powerful draconic energy. His Tier 5 warrior spirit's cultivation level, which was equivalent to the existence of a warrior king, was nothing compared to these skeletons. Dragons, the presence of true gods. I, as a mere warrior spirit, am only an ant, Tian mumbled in an attempt of self-comfort. Tian's mind was overwhelmed by the countless powerful draconic bones. It was quite a visual impact. Under this shock, Tian trod step by step forward. It was unknown how many skeletal frames he had walked past on the way, but these skeletons that varied in size once belonged to powerful dragons. Tui. Tian spat out a mouthful of blood. Even he was weighed down to blood spitting when faced with such boundless draconic qi. It took a while before a grand palace entered his vision. The palace was 100 yards in height, but its length behind went on for miles. Huge draconic bones rested on both sides of the palace. Dragon Abysm. Approaching the palace, Tian could see the 2 calligraphic words written in bold brushstrokes on top of the wide door. The forceful brushstrokes gave out a vibe of pressing force. Hu man, welcome to the Dragon Abysm. A commanding voice came from inside the palace. The voice may be faint, but it brought about an almighty draconic might. The tone sounded stiff, as though it had been over hundreds of centuries since it had spoken any words. Following the voice, the palace doors opened up. The overcast resembled the time before Earth was created. Tian could not help but walk in. Within his vision was a spacious palace where over 100 giant dragons dwelled. Each giant dragon, about 100 yards in size, emitted an astonishing draconic might and demonic energy. These giant white dragons formed 2 rows, leaving a 10-yard wide passageway in the middle. At the sight of these giant dragons, Tian felt as though he had fallen into a bottomless abyss at the sight of these giant dragons. Although the cultivation level of these giant dragons was unknown, the repression alone was enough to crush him alive. Humans were really a measly ant before these giant dragons. Then, Tian's face turned pale white while his eyes reeked of terror. Chapter 52, True Dragon Body Barrier. Chapter 52, True Dragon Body Barrier. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Huh. They aren't alive. Tian soon realized these giant dragons had not moved at all and there were no signs of life in them. Otherwise, the repression from a single giant dragon would have reduced him to ashes. We have no life. Right in the center of the palace, a golden phantom figure flickered in front of a huge throne. It had the face of a human and the body of a giant dragon. The phantom figure suspended in the air on top of the giant dragon, like a wandering soul. This golden dragon phantom figure gazed straight at the human before it, which left Tian feeling as though the gaze saw through him. "Human, you come from the deep blue planet," the golden dragon phantom figure faintly said as the astounding draconic chi and energy entwined around the golden dragon. It only took the utterance of a single sentence to drain a faction of both the draconic chi and energy. "How did you know?" Tian was horrified. Only Nine Yang Sacred Lord knew of this secret, and since Nine Yang Sacred Lord was fearful of Divine Dragon Palace, he did now know how the golden dragon had seen through his secret. "I have been to the deep blue planet. Your principal form had attempted to enter here several times, but it was to no avail. I didn't expect for you to merge your souls." The golden dragon phantom figure may have answered nonchalantly, but it caused quite a stir in Tian. "I see, you've been to Earth." Tian had it figured out. The golden dragon did exist on Earth, but it had crossed dimensions to arrive here in the end. The shift in dimensions and difference in time between both spaces were the reason why fabled dragons only lived in the legends. Since this golden dragon had seen through him, there was no point in hiding. Moreover, he had no instinct to resist this golden dragon. "Human, fate has led you here. I will give you a choice. You can either remain here forever or accept my offer." The golden dragon phantom figure went straight to the point. Darting a stare at Tian, a streak of excitement flashed by the golden dragon's gigantic eyes so fast that Tian failed to capture it. "What offer?" Tian's heart sank. Although he had made it all the way here, his life was not in his hands. Surely, it must be an offer he could not refuse. However, he immediately came to grips with it. For a giant dragon to make a deal with him, there must be something it was after. "You have the flaming sacred body and ice vitality soul. This. You will remain here forever if you can't cultivate it within a day. Come and discuss the deal with me once you can do so." At the swing of the golden dragon phantom figure's arm, a golden symbol weighed down on Tian. This golden symbol brought forth an astounding repression, including the great draconic might and dignity. Poof, thump. The golden symbol's repression crashed onto Tian, leaving him deeply wounded. Tian cursed inwardly, "Motherf asterisk cur, you want me to cultivate this sh asterisk t, yet you gave me such severe injury. God asterisk mn it, I can honestly lose my life facing this big guy." The giant dragon was easily the size of 100 yards, towering as vast as a hill, while Tian's build was no more the size of its toe. A simple slap of its claw could land him beaten black and blue. Bam! Taking the form of a phantom, the golden symbol snuck into his mind. As though he was struck, pain was written all over Li Lingtian's face. Ah! Following a loud cry, Li Lingtian passed out. This sort of pain was more gruesome than 9 Yang Sacred Lord's 9 Yang Sacred Fire. It was unknown how long it had been when Li Lingtian gained consciousness, but he quickly lost it again. The moment he fainted, Li Lingtian found himself in a dusky world without the presence of those giant dragons. Ah! 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 There were multiple times in which he regained consciousness, but every time he opened his eyes, he blacked out once more. God *mn, this will be the death of me. By the time he woke up, his body was completely numb. Gritting his teeth, Li Lingtian faintly mumbled as he examined his surroundings in pain. King Hell, it's all draconic chi here. The fact that he was submerged in draconic chi explained the great pain he was in. The golden dragon phantom figure had brought him here when he lost consciousness. True dragon body barrier. There were no words to describe the suffering he felt on his body. When he recalled the golden symbol given by the golden dragon phantom, Li Lingtian circulated his divine mindfulness to the appearance of golden symbols running inside his head. These symbols turned out to be a technique of the dragon clan. The true dragon body barrier, a dragon clan's technique, was said to be unrivaled amongst the demonic tribe. It was an existence that bore comparison to the human scripture. Defense to the demonic tribe meant an indestructible body. Their physique was their strongest defense. Needless to say, the king of the demonic tribe was the dragon clan, so the dragon clan must have reigned supreme over the demonic tribe. Who would have thought that the dragon clan would possess its own techniques? It was no wonder they were omnipotent. This is the dragon clan's almighty scripture, true dragon body barrier. How am I supposed to cultivate it in a day? Li Lingtian swore out loud. Others may pass out happy to obtain such a scripture, but Li Lingtian was annoyed to be the recipient. A scripture, the so-called scripture, was a supreme presence. Competency and gift were not the sole conditions to cultivate it, but luck and great wisdom played a huge role as well. For him to cultivate this scripture in a day, he might as well bang his head on the wall and die. My body. Whilst swearing, Li Lingtian was surprised to find that his physique had improved by multiple folds as the result of the draconic chi's tempering. In fact, his body was gradually merging with the draconic chi. Let me give it a go. Li Lingtian concluded that the golden dragon phantom figure's intention was not to harm him when it hurled him into this draconic chi and gave the scripture to him. After all, he had never heard that the dragon clan had a habit of torturing. Back in his mind, he sorted out the golden symbols. There were 9 layers to the true dragon body barrier. The first layer of the true dragon body barrier was the earth dragon's energy. Cultivating the first layer would earn him the earth dragon's defense and might, bringing his flesh to emulate that of a powerful earth dragon. The true dragon body barrier was not only a passive bodily defense, but it was also a domineering attack. Cultivating the first layer would unleash the earth dragon's energy and enable one to take after the attack of an earth dragon in a single strike. Draconic energy, retrieve. Owing to his past life's wisdom and comprehension, it took Li Lingtian 3 whole hours to fathom the first layer of the true dragon body barrier. He then began to cultivate. The emphasis of this technique was on strengthening the body. Now that Li Lingtian was surrounded by rich and pure draconic chi, he was in the perfect circumstance to cultivate the first layer earth dragon's energy. This will be the end of me. As he circulated the true dragon body barrier, an astonishing draconic chi surged into his body. For a moment, Li Lingtian felt as if his body was about to burst apart. Even though he was in possession of flaming sacred body, and had the fire dragon's heart and immemorial ice crystal refined, the domineering draconic chi still pushed him to the verge of bursting. At this point, he could only circulate the true dragon body barrier to swiftly refine and straighten out the draconic chi. As the draconic chi continued to temper Li Lingtian, cracks continuously presented all over his body. However, these cracks were immediately repaired as soon as they appeared. It was an endless cycle of cracks and repair. In a distance, the golden dragon phantom figure's gigantic eyes revealed its satisfaction. This human was full of surprises. He had the will to withstand the body tempering of the draconic chi. He has surpassed my expectation. He'll be able to endure green dragon's chi over him if he cultivates earth dragon's energy, the first layer. The fate of my dragon clan will depend on you. The golden dragon phantom figure murmured to itself. The destruction of the dragon clan was no coincidence, and no one knew that the entire clan met its doom here. Chapter 53, Chapter 53, Three Treasures. Chapter 53, Three Treasures. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Ah! A shout echoed clearly in the air like the groan of a dragon. With that, a figure broke out. Tian exited the land of draconic chi and reappeared before the golden dragon phantom figure. The endless stream of draconic chi was now gone as it had all been absorbed into his body, pushing his cultivation level to Tier 6 peak warrior spirit state. Due to this, Tian was brimming with energy and vitality. The draconic chi body tempering had given him a terrifyingly powerful physique. Good, you have cultivated the earth dragon's energy, the first layer. However, it'll get harder as you move through the layers. The golden dragon phantom figure took a glance at Tian before it bolted away swiftly and approached a giant dragon that towered over the palace. That must be its flesh. What is this deal all about, that made you so willing to bring out the draconic chi? Tian remained a calm demeanor. After all that he had been through, his mentality had reached an ultimate state. My offer is simple. Should you be able to cultivate the true dragon body barrier to its 6th layer one day, which is the divine dragon's energy, I hope that you'll be able to resurrect 9,000 dragon clans. The golden dragon phantom figure replied solemnly with an expectant look on its face. The powerful dragon clan had been completely wiped out and this human was their only hope. Moreover, this human was, in a way, from that world, so some sentiments should exist between both parties. The divine dragon's energy. Do you think I'm a god? The calm Tian jumped at the golden dragon phantom figure's words. The earth dragon's energy itself was a challenge to cultivate. He would not have pulled through if it were not for the abundant draconic chi. For one to cultivate up to the 6th layer of divine dragon's energy would mean that the person had exceeded a true godlike state, and God knows how long it would take him to reach that stage. What's more, your capability will reach great heights and you'll be the beneficiary to many advantages for cultivating the true dragon body barrier. As long as you agree to our deal, you won't be shortchanged. Take a look at this. The golden dragon phantom figure made a grabbing gesture in the air and out came 3 items. The appearance of the 3 items left Tian dumbfounded. Of course, it was not his intention to reveal his emotions in front of this phantom figure, but these 3 items were so shocking that Tian lost control of himself. What are these? Looking at those 3 items, Tian started to freak out. Gasping, he asked out of excitement. Out of these 3 items, one of them was a 10-foot-long battle halberd. The battle halberd emitted an overwhelmingly domineering chi, yet this chi was only an inkling that had escaped from its sealed state. Besides, there was also a foot-long pill tripod which gave out vintage and rustic chi. Although there was not an ounce of force in it, Tian had the urge to prostrate in worship towards this pill tripod. The last item was a 3-foot-long blade. This blade was like a pool of stagnant water without any presence of chi, but Tian dared not underestimate it. This is Roaring Dragon's battle halberd. It's a divine equipment that has been passed down for many generations in my dragon clan. This item is the Heaven and Earth Creation Tripod. You can have a feel of it yourself, of its effects and strength. As for this, it is the Horizon Despot Blade, a divine equipment built by your human ancestors. What do you think? If we have a deal, these treasures are yours to keep. Looking at Tian's state of shock, the golden dragon phantom figure felt smug as it posed the question. The dragon clan was destroyed and alas, it had succumbed to a soul fragment as well. This human was a great candidate, but if it missed the boat, there would not be another one. The dragon clan would disappear forever from the face of history. Aren't you worried that I'll take these treasures and flee? Perhaps I'll never advance to the 6th layer. Tian was ogling these 3 treasures. Nevertheless, it was best that he asked the right questions before he landed himself in some trap. Hee, of course I am. I have but one condition. The golden dragon phantom figure let out a human-like smile. Upon achieving the 7th tier, the demonic tribe would be presented an opportunity to take the form of a human, and this applied to the dragon clan as well. What's the condition? Here it came, finally. The 3 treasures would not be given to him unconditionally, but this came as no surprise. Take this out with you. You will have to sign and agree to a friendly bond. The golden dragon phantom figure then pointed at a large dragon egg at the side of the hall. When Tian turned towards the same direction, he realized that this dragon egg that was only a foot in length, and it did not live up to his expectation at all. Sigh, I guess you leave me with no choice. Let's begin. A friendly bond it is. Tian had thought about it for a long while. Despite his great ability and wisdom, he could not do as he pleased in such a place. Moreover, the dragon clan was not one to beat around the bush with. They let their fist do the talking and could simply crush their opponent for disagreeing. Great, you're beginning to grow on me. Be prepared for the green dragon's energy to be over you. The golden dragon phantom figure nodded with satisfaction as this human had surpassed its expectations. With that, the golden dragon phantom figure surged its body of draconic chi and led mysterious golden incantations to appear out of thin air. Suddenly, astounding draconic chi rose from the 100 giant dragons in the palace, and they quickly amassed. These draconic chi were the giant dragon's energy. On top of that, the golden dragon phantom figure too emitted a sacred dragon's energy. At the combination of the 2 draconic energies, the palace started to tremble, and as a dragon's howl sounded, draconic might burst out. At this moment, Tian could not help but quiver in the knees. Tian swiftly cast the earth dragon's energy over his body as a barrier of protection. However, the earth dragon's energy was useless against the giant dragon's energy and sacred dragon's energy. Nevertheless, the earth dragon's energy was a draconic energy, so he would not be ripped apart and vaporized at least. While Tian endured the pain from resisting against the giant dragon's energy and sacred dragon's energy, he took a good look at the golden dragon phantom figure. After the integration of both draconic energies, the combined energy immediately shot towards the dragon egg. The astounding draconic energy wrapped around the dragon egg and continuously spun around it. It was unknown how long it took before a crack appeared on the dragon egg and a subtle noise followed. Crackle. The dragon egg cracked open. When Tian feasted his eyes on the little guy inside the egg, he could not help but feel confused. Inside the dragon egg was a snow-white bunny. This rabbit was similar to those rabbits in his past life. The only difference was the scarlet, red, and green color fur on its forehead. Heaven and earth bond. The golden dragon phantom figure was growing faint, as though it would vanish at any moment. Even the 100 giant dragons looked like they had weakened significantly as their vigors depleted. The golden dragon phantom figure then unleashed a golden incantation that quickly created a bond between Tian and the white bunny. Shortly thereafter, Tian could sense the white bunny's thoughts. Bam! A powerful draconic energy entered Tian's body at the sound of an explosion. Although the golden dragon phantom figure was swaying aimlessly and on the brink of disappearing, its eyes were beaming with excitement. It gazed towards the white rabbit lovingly, like a parent towards its youngling. Here is the draconic energy of 3,000 worlds for your cultivation. I hope you will treat it kindly and hold to your end of the promise. You may return now. Although the phantom figure was fading away, it was still eager as it swung its claw to hurl a green item at Tian. Tian caught the item with one hand and grabbed it tightly. At the same time, a compelling heaven and earth's energy catapulted the white bunny and him away. Tian had the urge to run his mouth because the three treasures gradually faded out of his sight. That was a divine equipment, and just like that, an amazing existence had disappeared. The inability to reconcile with that fact almost had him bleeding in the mouth. Chapter 54, The Amazing Xiao Bai. Chapter 54, The Amazing Xiao Bai. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Swoosh. With the wind blowing in his face, Tian felt clear-headed. However, the fact that he was separated from the divine equipment when the heaven and earth's energy propelled him away, killed him inside. Huh. Amid drowning in regret, Tian suddenly realized an astonishing matter. He was now standing on the same mountain range, but this mountain range no longer bore any spiritual qi. He felt as though he was in a dream. He then took a glance at the item in his hand and found that it was a simple green ring. If not for the ring and the white bunny beside him, Tian would have believed that he was dreaming. I'm hungry. A thought entered his mind. As the white rabbit gazed back at him with red jewel eyes, Tian started to grow fond of this adorable rabbit. Are you a rabbit or a dragon? Tian was perplexed. Although this rabbit had signed a friendly bond with him, he still could not believe that this little guy was a dragon. Was there a dragon like this? I am, of course, a dragon. I'm a dragon rabbit, also the strongest rainbow true dragon in the dragon clan. The white bunny conveyed its thoughts with a proud look on its face before it pointed at the tricolor fur on its forehead with its paw. Dragon rabbit. Tian fell into deep thoughts. It was no wonder the golden dragon phantom figure had such confidence in its eyes. This rabbit was the dragon clan's strongest rainbow true dragon, albeit a youngling. Those with the bloodline of the true dragon would only gain strength in adulthood. He then turned his gaze to the simplistic ring in his hand for a closer examination. An item from the golden dragon phantom figure must not be ordinary. With that, Tian cautiously released his divine mindfulness towards the ring. Once his divine mindfulness had entered inside the ring, Tian's jaw dropped. This was no ring but a world, it was the earlier dragon Abysm no less. Ignoring the dimensional distance, his divine mindfulness arrived within the dragon Abysm's palace. However, the golden dragon phantom figure was gone, so was the golden dragon's flesh. Only the bodies of the 100 giant dragons remained. 3 treasures also suspended in the air. At the sight of these, Tian became excited. As it turned out, this place was a standalone dimension. Everything was inside the ring, hence it seemed like he had overthought the situation. These dragon bones and bodies in there could be taken out at will. Tian retrieved his divine mindfulness from the ring and placed a drop of blood essence on it to begin refinery. Only by refining the ring would it then belong to him and everything it in would be under his thumb. Divine Dragon Ring. The ring tempering was completed an hour later and Tian immediately wore the ring on the middle finger of his right hand. The simplistic ring did not carry any qi. The ring was a perfect fit on his finger as though it was made for him. With it cemented to his finger, it was impossible to take it off. He also knew that this ring, called the Divine Dragon Ring, had a standalone dimension in it. Although he was not aware of its size, he would soon find out once his cultivation level reached a certain height. What should I name you? After he was done, Tian noticed the white rabbit was looking at him. Since they had formalized a friendly bond, they were now a pair. Even though it was not a life or death bond, the other party would reincarnate in the next life if any one of them were to perish. You should give me a mighty name, not some common name like Tom, Dick, or Harry. The rabbit sent its thoughts over to remind Tian. The names of the dragon clan had always been imperious, so it did not want a common name. Xiao by copyright, it is. Having said that, Tian turned to advance to a distance. Xiao Bai, what name is this? What does Xiao Bai mean? Xiao Bai it is then. Confused, the dragon rabbit questioned itself. At the sight of Li Lingtian dashing away, its agile body too moved in a flash. Streaking 10 yards in a leap, it appeared behind Li Lingtian in the blink of an eye. Soon, the duo bolted into a distance with their backs facing the mountain. While they were on the way, Xiao Bai looked on with perplexed eyes as Li Lingtian searched around for medicinal supply. What are these things for? Xiao Bai sent its thoughts to Li Lingtian's head. It failed to grasp the reason why Li Lingtian was picking up these flowers and grass. These are useful for raising cultivation levels when they're refined to pills, and for this purpose, I can refine them to pills. Pills that are refined by these materials are way better than this. As Li Lingtian and Xiao Bai were bound by a friendly bond, they could communicate through their thoughts, without speaking. However, Li Lingtian preferred to talk because he was accustomed to it. With this, it seemed as though he was talking to himself. He took out a bottle of pills from his storage sack. These grade 3 pills were snatched from those super geniuses. Li Lingtian hurled the jade bottle over to Xiao Bai. Huh. This is good. Xiao Bai opened the jade bottle for a whiff. As the qi was alluring, it poured the jade bottle down its throat, downing the pills like they were candy. Soon, its vision started to blur before it lost consciousness. Li Lingtian tried to stop it, but it was too late. There were 20 grade 3 pills in the jade bottle at least. Even a warrior ascendant would not be able to handle swallowing them all in one go, let alone a warrior spirit like himself. His heart sank when Xiao Bai passed out. Would the dragon rabbit meet its fate just like that? Swish swish, swish swish. With Xiao Bai in his embrace, Li Lingtian swiftly made a dash afar until he found a cave to rest. He kept an eye on Xiao Bai as he took a breather. It would be troublesome if it were to die here. It was 3 hours later when Xiao Bai finally awoke. After it came around, Xiao Bai smacked its lips repeatedly in an attempt to relive the taste, leaving Li Lingtian speechless. Do you still have anything like that? Xiao Bai passed its thoughts into Li Lingtian's mind. Not only was it hooked on the pill, but the earlier pills had raised its cultivation level by a large margin. Blessed with unending longevity, the dragon clan and demonic tribe engaged in cultivation all their lives, so it was unusually difficult for them to advance in tiers. However, it never crossed Xiao Bai's mind that these pills would push its cultivation level that quickly. There's none left, but don't do it again. These pills are garbage. The pills I refine are much better by this. You won't be able to handle a single pill, Li Lingtian responded with a serious tone. Li Lingtian did not want Xiao Bai to overdose on pills. Then refine it for me. Xiao Bai looked at Li Lingtian with pitiful eyes. After all, it was a waste not to make use of the refinery at hand. Refine? It's easier said than done. I need to find medicinal supplies to refine. Li Lingtian was rendered speechless by this little guy. Not everyone was capable of refining pills, even with the right materials. Not to mention, medicinal supplies were valuable. Isn't it just these flowers and grass? I'll help you. Xiao Bai took a look at the medical supply in Li Lingtian's hands before it disappeared outside the cave in a flash. Taken aback by Xiao Bai's insane velocity, Li Lingtian reflected whether the mad skills applied to all of the dragon clan. Li Lingtian caught up with Xiao Bai and soon arrived at an area where it was rich with spiritual qi. The richer the spiritual qi, the better the medicinal supply. 1000-year white fruit. 1000-year purple flower. This is the 10,000-year scarlet fruit. 10,000-year fire dragon fruit. I'm rich. 1000-year spiritual fruit. Ha, jackpot. Enthusiastic over the countless herbs and fruits, Li Lingtian swiftly collected these medicinal supplies. On the other hand, Xiao Bai was perplexed by Li Lingtian's elation. It's full. Huh. How silly of me. I can just store the items in my storage sacks in the Divine Dragon Ring. For a moment, Li Lingtian was in a bind with his storage sacks filled to the brim. Nevertheless, the thought of the divine dragon ring sprung to his mind, prompting him to place his spiritual stones and storage sacks items in a corner inside the ring. Following that, Xiaobai became responsible for the search for medicinal supplies and valuable fruits while Li Lingtian did the picking. Li Lingtian was aware of the dragon clan's sharp sense of smell towards treasures. Xiaobai was capable of sniffing out powerful spiritual qi and treasures within a 300 miles radius. With such a great sense of smell, Li Lingtian was bubbling over with excitement. Chapter 55, Horizon Despot Blade. Chapter 55, Horizon Despot Blade. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Xiaobai, don't touch that. It's a 10,000-year purple jade fruit that could advance a warrior ascendant's cultivation to another tier. Although it can only be used once, it's still out of this world. Don't ruin it. For the past few days, Li Lingtian had been following closely behind Xiaobai. The pathway Xiaobai led him to had been filled with valuable medicinal supplies, flowers, and fruits. Li Lingtian immediately put a stop to Xiaobai, who was about to pick a purple jade fruit for consumption. Although there were over 100 of these 10,000-year purple jade fruits on this tree, one fruit less was one fruit wasted. Xiaobai would not raise much of its cultivation even if it ate it. However, the purple jade fruit would produce better effects if it was refined into a pill rather than consume it on its own. Roar, roar. At that moment, a multicolored ferocious beast emerged not far from the purple jade tree. It then growled loudly, as if proclaiming ownership on the purple jade fruits. *****, why are there demonic beasts everywhere? And a 4th tier level 4 multicolored beast too, Li Lingtian cursed. Here were the 10,000-year purple jade fruits, yet a 4th tier level 4 demonic beast stood in his way. It put a Motherf ***king damper on his plans. He may have advanced to tier 6 through the draconic chi body tempering, but there was no certainty he would win against a 4th tier level 4 demonic beast. Before, he would take to his heels at the sight of 4th tier demonic beasts. He had once killed a 4th tier level 1 demonic beast with great difficulty and it had left him with some injuries. It would be the death of him to challenge a 4th tier level 4 demonic beast this time too. Xiaobai, be careful. If Xiaobai were not around, Li Lingtian would take his chance and unleash his killer move. However, with Xiaobai present, he could risk putting Xiaobai's life on the line if he lost. Nevertheless, Li Lingtian's mind was blown by Xiaobai's actions. His widened eyes were a dead giveaway of his disbelief. Roar. As Xiaobai let out a howl, its foot-long body released a huge draconic might. The surge of draconic might brought about an astonishing vigor, forcing the 4th tier level 4 multicolored beast to lay prostrate on the ground in fear. This was the draconic might, the dignity of a dragon. The supreme dignity carried the weight of a 10,000 beast supreme. However, this was not the only cause of Li Lingtian's surprise as Xiaobai's foot-long body exploded into a 5-yard-long tricolored dragon. 4th tier, the existence of a 4th tier level 3 beast, Li Lingtian cried out in alarm. It had never crossed his mind that this inconspicuous Xiaobai was at 4th tier at birth. If one were to compare, this would only bring them down to their knees. Even demonic beasts would be left feeling resentful if they were compared to Xiaobai. Other demonic beasts, as well as humans, were riddled with the question as to whether they had the talent to cultivate when they were born, while Xiaobai was born straight into 4th tier and possessed the capabilities that were equivalent to a warrior ascendant. Roar, roar. Xiaobai let out violent growls as if it was giving the multicolored beast a telling off. Other humans may not understand the words coming out of Xiaobai's mouth, but Li Lingtian was well aware that Xiaobai was giving the multicolored beast a choice, whether to submit or die. Roar, roar. Reclining to a flat position, the multicolored beast growled in a low voice before assuming the docile mannerism of a house cat. At that sight, Li Lingtian fell back on his bottoms. The world had just gone mad. Xiaobai then sent its thoughts to Li Lingtian's mind. In an attempt to probe, Tian walked towards the purple jade tree, but the multicolored beast showed no signs of resistance. With that, Tian immediately gathered the purple jade fruits, collecting more than hundreds of them. He and Xiao then departed together, with the multicolored beast tagging along. It was a rather strange sight to see Xiao taking a ride on the multicolored beast. Days went by as Tian and Xiao focused on their search for medicinal supplies and rare fruits within Divine Dragon Palace. The multicolored beast too was in their company. 2 months had passed by then, and the time to leave Hidden Dragon Isle was around the corner. There were now huge piles of 1,000-year and 10,000-year medicinal supplies inside Tian's Divine Dragon Ring, including countless of 100-year supplies. In the end, Tian placed these supplies in bulks inside the ring, in hopes that these herbs would grow inside the Divine Dragon Ring. There's still another month left, so I'll be concentrating on my cultivation. Please provide me with protection in the meantime. Tian found a cave that overflowed with spiritual qi before he wormed himself into it. With that, the multicolored beast kept watch on the outside while Xiao lay to rest beside Tian. Inside the cave, Tian began his cultivation in a cross-legged position. He was concentrating on the true dragon body barrier as well as the heaven and earth reincarnation, which both were of scripture status. Heaven and earth creation tripod, refine. After a period of cultivation, he took out the heaven and earth creation tripod from his divine dragon ring. The foot-long pill tripod carried a vintage vibe that one could not help but bow down to. Tian then motioned a spell and aimed it towards the creation tripod. However, the spell was immediately repelled, disabling the pill tripod from being tempered. The situation took Tian by surprise. He fell deep into ponder for a long time. A super treasure could not be refined through ordinary spells, but he had not been informed of any other tempering methods. So, he racked his brains for a while before he shot a drop of blood essence towards it. Swish, swish. The blood essence seemed to set the creation tripod on fire, which suddenly prompted the ancient creation tripod to emit a lazy halation. Tian could then sense a connection, but because he could not refine this creation tripod as a whole, its use was limited to pill refinery solely. Nevertheless, he was also unaware of the creation tripod's actual application. He was slightly disappointed but more so hopeful. He had always believed that great treasures could not be successfully refined in one go like garbage found at the side of the street. The harder it was to temper a treasure, the more powerful it was. This was his belief. Horizon Despot Blade, refine. Tian retrieved his creation tripod before he turned to temper the Horizon Despot Blade. The Horizon Despot Blade was a divine equipment refined by the earliest ancestor of mankind, and it yielded an incredible force. Similarly, it was useless to refine it through spells, so he resorted to temper the weapon with his blood essence for a full hour before the Horizon Despot Blade was finally secured. The Horizon Despot Blade. I can only unleash the force of a peerless Onyx equipment at my current cultivation level. Only by raising my cultivation level would I be able to unleash more of its capability. Admiring the Horizon Despot Blade, Tian was filled with glee. As a warrior spirit, he could only release the strength comparable to an Onyx equipment, but the capacity would increase following his advancement to Warrior King. The higher his cultivation level, the more the restriction would be lifted. The Roaring Dragon Battle Halberd was next on the tempering list. Similar to the Horizon Despot Blade, Tian could only bring a fraction of its capacity to play. Nevertheless, a fraction still proved a great force. This was all due to his limited cultivation level. It seemed that without great cultivation level, realizing one's full potential was unattainable even with a divine equipment in possession. In short, he was unable to make capital out of his equipment. After he had tempered the 3 treasures, Tian began to refine pills. Although he still had grade 2 spirit binding pills on him, they were all rubbish pills. The pills he refined himself were of much better quality. As the creation tripod was not in his full control, Tian could not assess its ability. However, it was definitely useful for pill refineries. Temper. Following a shout, the creation tripod appeared in front of him before it suddenly grew to 3 foot in size. The creation tripod now let out a faint white glow. With spiritual stones set ablaze to heat up the pill tripod, Tian hurled the medicinal supplies in. He cast his divine mindfulness to stabilize the concoction before following the refining process step by step. The skilled techniques that he demonstrated was that of a seasoned apothecary. 5 minutes later, the creation tripod was opened and it unveiled the success of spiritual binding pill refinery. Peerless spirit binding pills. Is this the force of the creation tripod? The quality of the spirit binding pills caught Tian off guard. Since he had used his divine mindfulness to pay close attention to the creation tripod during refinery, he found that the creation tripod had extracted all impurities, leaving only the valuable concoction behind. Hence, the result of these peerless pills was all on the creation tripod. With these peerless spirit binding pills, Tian could improve his cultivation level quickly. Moreover, he could help others by refining pills in exchange for spiritual stones and medicinal supplies. Chapter 56, Gathering of Geniuses. Chapter 56, Gathering of Geniuses. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. After days had passed, Tian left the cave and quickly headed towards the outside world. His cultivation had reached a Tier 7 warrior spirit state in the span of a month. As a Tier 7 warrior spirit, he was no longer intimidated by a warrior king, or specifically anyone beneath a Tier 1 warrior king, because the draconic chi and domineering force of the roaring dragon battle halberd alone would be enough to slaughter a regular warrior king. The Horizon Despot blade may be powerful, but Tian dared not put it to use hastily. Unless it was out of absolute necessity, he would not apply the Horizon Despot blade. Due to the draconic chi and draconic chi body tempering present in his body, he was able to gain more control over the roaring dragon battle halberd. This roaring dragon battle halberd and Horizon Despot blade were both divine equipment. Moreover, by the looks of the golden dragon phantom figure, these two divine equipment must be more than they meet the eye. While Tian was engaged in cultivation, he had refined countless pills, feeding a few of them to Xiao Bai and the multicolored beast daily. Owing to the multicolored beast's reliance on the pills and repression from Xiao Bai, it became Tian's mount. On the vast surface of Divine Dragon Palace, many warriors caught glimpse of a huge multicolored beast and a young man in white riding on its back. The young man in white held a white bunny in his embrace. A 4th-tier demonic beast was in existence that even a warrior king would give way in avoidance of conflict. They would hide far away before this 4th-tier demonic beast had a chance to rip them apart. Since its opening, Divine Dragon Palace had remained visible on the surface of the lake. Numerous warriors were denied entry, so all they could do was settle on the outside to look for medicinal supply. As time went by, the moment to depart Hidden Dragon Isle was fast approaching, and the warriors who entered Divine Dragon Palace came out one after the other. As there was no account of a previous entry, no one knew whether they would be teleported out when the time came. It was a risk they dared not take, hence the decision to exit the palace. By the lake, thousands of warriors amassed. The majority of them had always been waiting outside, while the remaining portion was those who came out from the inside. Sky Dragon Empire, bring your heads over. Riding on a 3rd-tier level 7 golden crystal beast copyright, Tian Wuji shouted. He darted a sharp gaze at the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire. During his time in Divine Dragon Palace, he had subdued a 3rd-tier level 7 demonic beast, an existence comparable to a Tier 7 warrior king. He was beaming with confidence to earn a strong demonic beast as his mount. Moreover, he had gained a few treasures and countless medicinal supplies. The thought of Tian suddenly prompted Tian Wuji to lose his temper on the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire. Even if Tian were to come to their rescue, he was fully capable of destroying him. Tian Wuji, were you this arrogant when Tian was around? Displeased, Dongfang Qingyu returned the gaze at Tian Wuji. However, not only was Tian Wuji's mount a 3rd-tier level 7 demonic beast, but Tian Wuji himself was a tier 2 warrior king and a step away from tier 3. This meant that his ability amongst them here was unrivaled. Dongfang Qingyu, you're just a piece of trash. You're nothing against me. If Li Tian does come back alive, I will tear him to bits, Tian Wuji cried out loud. For a moment, many warriors from Tianjin Empire burst out into laughter. Tianjin Empire was the strongest empire in eastern Spirit Greenland. Renowned for their strength, they naturally looked down upon Sky Dragon Empire. Disciples from the Southern Empire, Northern Dusk Empire, as well as the 4 mysterious clans, joined in the clamor too. Wiping out Sky Dragon Empire's disciples in such a place would destroy any possibility of Sky Dragon Empire from having a future. People from Tianjin Empire, heed my call. Kill all of Sky Dragon Empire's men. Any treasures that you attain are yours to keep. A hint of ruthlessness flashed past Tian Wujian's eyes. There was no restriction of a massacre in Hidden Dragon Isle, and since the 2 empires had always been on bad terms, he was not going to let this rare opportunity go to waste. Your Highness the Second Prince, I won't bother with these people, but when Li Tian comes out, leave him to me. I will make him regret his life for killing people of my Divine Sword sect. As Yan Ming's voice was heard, a young man walked out of Divine Dragon Palace's gate with a confident smile on his face. The mediocre Onyx equipment in his hand released a powerful repression. Huh? Yan Ming, you broke through to Tier 4 Warrior King. Tian Wuji was taken aback. A Tier 4 Warrior King was much stronger than him. As Divine Sword sect was also a super sect in Tianjin Empire, he was not in the position to offend him. Haha, Yan Ming, you're one step ahead of me. But Li Tian is mine and I want him dead. Another voice was heard coming from Divine Dragon Palace's gate, and a frail youth walked out. Qing Hezi of 10,000 Demons sect carried himself with ease as he rode on a 3rd-tier level 7 demonic beast. Soon, one warrior after another came out, either having advanced in tiers, got their hands on great treasures, or had harvested valuable medicinal supplies. Each one of them who made it out was duly rewarded. This made the warriors on the outside green with envy. Their cultivation level was too low anyway, they would only be sending themselves to their death if they were to enter. For a moment, 7 warrior kings diverted their anger on Li Tian. These super geniuses kept a close watch on the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire. If Li Tian failed to show up, they would take out their anger on the Sky Dragon Empire's warriors by killing all of them. Days went by and a stream of warriors came out, yet there were no signs of Li Tian. Senior sister, do you think junior brother Li will come out in one piece? Lu Yi turned her gaze to Zhou Qingqing, who was also the beneficiary of countless medicinal supplies and treasures inside. Her cultivation level had advanced to Tier 1 Peak Warrior King, and the velocity of her cultivation had left many envious. Come out. Even if he did, what chance does he stand on current circumstances? Are you showing concern for junior brother Li? Zhou Qingqing took notice of countless warrior kings who were directing their fury on Li Tian. Even if Li Tian made it out, everything was pointed to a disaster. To think that everyone counted on Li Tian to open the gate for entry. Now that they were in possession of treasures, nothing was holding them back. Naturally, these people wanted Li Tian dead. Li Tian had stepped on their toes, after all. Zhou Qingqing then took one look at Lu Yi's worried face and suddenly got the picture. Hence, she teased Lu Yi. Senior sister, what are you saying? Lu Yi's exquisitely flawless face turned red. Her bashful side turned the heads of many super geniuses who revealed a strange look on their faces. It's the last day today. Li Tian must have died in Divine Dragon Palace. If you want to put the blame on someone, you should blame Li Tian. Tian Wuji fixated his eyes on Divine Dragon Palace's gate. Li Tian had not made an appearance, and if they were to wait any longer, they would be teleported out before they could lay their hands on the disciples from Sky Dragon Empire. Having said that, Tianjin Empire's 7 warrior kings and the Southern Empire's 7 warrior kings stood up. The other warriors too swiftly encircled Sky Dragon Empire's warriors. Only a handful from Northern Dusk Empire took no action because of the mutual relationship Northern Dusk Empire and Sky Dragon Empire shared. During a time like this, they would not be on opposing ends with the Southern Empire and Tianjin Empire if they did not lend a hand to Sky Dragon Empire. A war was about to break out. With Sky Dragon Empire's 200-odd warriors against 1,000 overmasters, they stood no chance to win. At this point, countless warriors from Sky Dragon Empire were put in a tight spot. Bam! Wham! Ah, ah, ah. Tianjin Empire's Tian Wuji was the first to make a move. As he swung his Onyx equipment to launch an attack at Sky Dragon Empire's warriors, sounds of blasts were followed by cries that echoed in the background. Let Tianjin Empire handle it while we sit back and watch. We're only here for Liling Tian. Seeing that Sky Dragon Empire's warriors had no means to fight back, the Southern Empire's warrior took a back seat. They were not fools, after all. They would not be able to bear the weight should Sky Dragon Empire decide to fight to the bitter end for offending them. Humph, Tian Wuji snorted coldly. There was no reason to stop now that he had initiated a war. The few warrior kings stood aside and watched while other warrior spirits and warriors joined in the killing spree. Zhou Qingqing was in disarray. She was not in the position to strike as the opposing warrior kings had not laid a hand, but if she were to raise her hand, she would be met with the few warrior kings' fatal moves. In a minute, Sky Dragon Empire's 50-odd warriors were killed while a dozen from Tianjin Empire were slaughtered. At this rate, the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire would be wiped out within 10 minutes. Who was the fat F***CK who said he'll kill me? Come forth. At this very crucial moment, a cold voice was heard from Divine Dragon Palace's gate. The voice may be calm but the icy tone sent quivers down everyone's spine. Chapter 57, Killing Tian Wuji. Chapter 57, Killing Tian Wuji. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Liling Tian. It's junior brother Li. Liling Tian's still alive. I've been waiting for you for a long time now. Prepare to die. Everyone stopped in their tracks at that very moment and diverted their attention to Divine Dragon Palace's gate. The dozen-odd warrior kings from Tianjin Empire and the Southern Empire bolted forward. Liling Tian had at least 30 million spiritual stones on him. If they killed him, they would be able to get their hands on 30 million spiritual stones. Moreover, they needed to gain a one-up on Liling Tian after he extorted and humiliated them. Great, I'll let you kill me, Liling Tian shouted back. However, fear soon crippled all the warriors while the dozen-odd warrior kings withdrew in dismay. 4th tier level for Multicolored Beast. King Hell, it's a 4th tier demonic beast. He has a 4th tier demonic beast as his mount. How are we supposed to fight him? A 4th tier level 4 demonic beast is equivalent to a tier 4 warrior ascendant. Won't we be looking for our death wish? Everybody was caught off guard. How were they supposed to fight against a mount that was a 4th tier level 4 demonic beast? The 4th tier Pseudo dragon beast that they killed earlier was only a 4th tier level 2 and it was only killed due to the lack of time to revolt after being encaged in a treasure. This multicolored beast here was not the earlier Pseudo dragon beast. No matter how great a warrior king was, they would still be knocking on death's door. Tian Wuji and Qing Hizi remained tight-lipped. They were proud of obtaining a 3rd tier level 7 demonic beast as their mount at first, but with Liling Tian's 4th tier level 4 demonic beast, their 3rd tier demonic beasts paled in comparison. Liling Tian sat on top of the 15-foot-tall multicolored beast with natural poise. Although his face spoke of calmness, his eyes were cold and stark as he turned to look at Tian Wuji. Tian Wuji, Yan Ming, and you lot, come at me together. You may rest here eternally if you miss out on this opportunity. Tian was aware of what was going on from the situation between Tianjin Empire and Sky Dragon Empire. These people were releasing their anger on Sky Dragon Empire. He could have come out 10 days ago, but the discovery of various valuable medicinal supplies delayed much of his time. Whoa! There was a huge clamor for the fact that this one person wanted to challenge the warrior kings altogether. If 9 warrior kings teamed up, even a warrior ascendant would be wary. This Tian had gotten way in over his head. However, Tian's cultivation level had reached Tier 7 warrior spirit state. He was only at Tier 5 when he entered Divine Dragon Palace, yet he was now at Tier 7. The speed of his cultivation was beyond anything. Nevertheless, he was still only a Tier 7 warrior spirit. He could not possibly match up to the joint forces of 9 warrior kings. Sky Dragon Empire's warriors were worried stiff as they were up against other empires, not just a sect within their own empire. Motherf *Ker, how are we supposed to fight you with your 4th tier demonic beast? Qing Hezi cursed out loud. As a warrior of 10,000 demons sect, he very well knew of the disparity in strength between demonic beasts. More so, the 3rd tier level 7 demonic beast that he was mounted on was trembling. There was no way they could proceed to battle. Don't you have any sense of shame? Don't you know how to get yourself a 4th tier demonic beast? You need the capability to subdue a 4th tier demonic beast, so this is Junior Brother Li's ability. Weren't you guys very arrogant back then? What warrior king are you? I think you fed your cultivation to the dogs. The warriors from Sky Dragon Empire started to curse. Just when they were a step from being vaporized by Tianjin Empire, the high and mighty Tian had brought along a 4th tier demonic beast which gave them an extra sense of security. If you're not going to fight, I'll make a start, Tian replied faintly. It was an opportunity he could not miss out on. Once they left this place, there would not be another chance to kill these geniuses. Having said that, the multicolored beast he was mounted on pounced at Tian Wuji, giving Tian the opening to fling the flaming divine fist in his hand. The atmosphere was suddenly overwhelmed with flaming chi. Much more terrifying 4th tier demonic beasts' demonic energy and repression then weighed down on Tian Wuji. Heavenly Tomb handprint. Deep down, Tian Wuji was petrified, because no matter how confident, he was not delusional to go against a warrior ascendant class demonic beast. Upon circulating his body of true chi, Tian Wuji unleashed an Onyx tier moderate skill, Heavenly Tomb handprint, and slammed it towards Tian. Bam! The flaming divine fist and Heavenly Tomb handprint copyright vanished simultaneously after cancelling each other out. The multicolored beast's humongous paw viciously clawed towards Tian Wuji, tearing the dimension with a vicious force. Switcheroo, initiate. Wham! Roar! Tian Wuji's mount was clawed to death while the owner disappeared without a trace. Ice Vitality Divine Fist, 300-mile frost. Tian was taken by surprise that this imperial prince had many cards and treasures up his sleeve. This switcheroo was an incantation that aided his escape. With the release of the Ice Vitality Divine Fist, the chilling true chi in Tian's body turned a vicinity of 200 yards into a glacier. Everything within this glacier was under his control. Break. A punch was pulled at a spot inside the glacier. The speed was faster than the naked eye. Astounding flame. Following a violent scream within the glacier, an earth-shattering flame suddenly pressed forth onto Tian before it came into blows with the Ice Vitality Divine Fist in the blink of an eye. Clang! The glacier shattered to pieces while the Ice Vitality Divine Fist disappeared. The flame was also cancelled out. However, Tian Wuji's eyes were filled with terror as he had turned into an ice sculpture. Sky Domineering Body, penetrate. Sky Domineering Fist, die. At an outcry, Tian Wuji smashed the ice sculpture apart. Many warrior king powerhouses were struck with awe by the release of such astounding aggressiveness from his body. After all, this second prince was valiant, and they had underestimated him. A fist that was 30 feet in size fell onto Lilingtian at an incredible speed. In an instant, it was hung above Lilingtian's head. Heaven and earth conflagration. Thousand shadows of fluttering flowers. An astounding flaming chi spread out in a burst, forming a flaming square of a 50-yard radius around Lilingtian while the purple-green sword was swung. Swish swish, swish swish. Poof. Ah. Although the huge fist was warded off by the hundreds of blade aura and glare, its force residue was still headed towards Lilingtian. However, as it approached the flames, the force residue evaporated to nothingness in the flames. Just like that, Tian Wuji was completely immersed in the flames. The heaven and earth conflagration was an earth-tier inferior skill with a crippling drive. Compared to the sky-domineering fist, an Onyx-tier superior skill, it packed quite a punch. You are up next. Lilingtian watched as Tian Wuji dissolved to nothingness. As a storage sack fell off the flames, Lilingtian extended his arm out for it to land on his hand. He darted a cold stare at the other warrior kings. Heaven falls, earth rends. With that, a fist was slammed down on the ground. Suddenly, the earth began to quake as if it was about to shatter. 8 warrior kings appeared within Lilingtian's attack range. Greatest Een Fist. Drifting metal clang. Flaming metal shield. Earth's weight. FL2. At this point, the 8 warrior kings unleashed their strongest defense. As long as they were able to fend against Lilingtian's move, they could join forces to annihilate him. This young man had proved to be a terrifying existence, and they would not be able to manage if he were to develop with time. Wham! Bam! Just then, the Silver Palace swiftly disappeared out of sight, in destruction. The entire Hidden Dragon Isle was trembling at the rate that was more intense than Lilingtian's Heaven Falls Earth Rends. Countless cracks appeared midair while gales descended in wreaking havoc. There was also a terrifying suction force coming from these cracks. Boom! Boom! It was at this moment that Lilingtian ceased his motion. He was a little disappointed as he could have killed these warrior kings given another 10 seconds. However, it seemed his plans had come to a screeching halt. With his powerful defense resisting against the gales, Lilingtian bolted to the sky. At the trigger of his divine mindfulness, Xiao Bai and the multicolored beast were brought into the divine dragon ring. Meanwhile, all the warriors on Hidden Dragon Isle were sucked into the cracks in the sky. Chapter 58, Spiritual Master Tian Xiao. Chapter 58, Spiritual Master Tian Xiao. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Beyond the borderless sea, roaring thunder and lightning veiled the sky with an overcast. The Hidden Dragon Isle is about to open, they should be out any minute. I wonder what they would gain this time. The next time will be a century later. They only have this one chance. The elders who were waiting on their sect's disciples by the borderless sea looked to the sky with expectant eyes. The development of their sect in the next century rested on the shoulders of these disciples. Only in Hidden Dragon Isle would there be valuable medicinal supplies to refine pills. Without medicinal supplies, there would not be any pills. Of course, this would eventually lead to the fall of a sect. With the Milky Way ring, Wuji must have harvested the most. Spiritual Master Tian Xiao was beaming with confidence. Although there were powerful super sects in Tianjin Empire, these sects were no more stronger than the imperial family. He was a Tier 3 warrior ascendant powerhouse. Tian Wuji was a rare genius in the imperial family, reaching Tier 2 warrior king state before he hit 30. In possession of some of the most omnipotent skills and treasures, he was undefeatable amongst his Tier 5 warrior king peers. How Tianming and the rest must have found the great Een fruit. A warrior ascendant from Northern Een religion of Northern Dusk Empire faintly replied. His pitch-black apparel and hood added a veil of mystery over the man. Swish, swish. Soon, black dots emerged in the sky. As these black dots gradually became clear, it was evident that these were warriors who entered Hidden Dragon Isle. Countless warriors scattered around like loose dandelions, and many of the unsuspecting warriors fell into the sea. Look for your own disciples, I'm heading off to greet the disciples from Sky Dragon Empire. Having said that, Tian he departed in a flash and shot up to the sky. A loud bang then ensued, attracting the attention of the warriors from Sky Dragon Empire. As Tian moved from Hidden Dragon Isle to the rift, he sensed an overwhelming pressure. However, this pressure passed in the blink of an eye before a strong breeze propelled him to land in high velocity. Surprised by the rapid descent, Tian immediately adjusted his motion skill. After taking a clear look at a direction, he flew towards Bai Yan's group. Elder. Upon drawing close to Bai Yan, Tian saluted with respect and stood erected behind the four elders. It's great to have you back. Bai Yan and the lot were satisfied to find Tian returning in one piece. Such a talented disciple was Sky Cloud Sect's future pillar of hope. The sect would suffer a great loss should he perish. However, their faces changed when they realized Tian's cultivation level. Their dropped jaws were wide enough to stuff an egg in them. Your cultivation level? You broke through to Warrior Spirit. Tier 7 Warrior Spirit. How could it be? You were only a Tier 9 warrior when you went in. How did you jump to Tier 7 Warrior Spirit state? The four elders gasped. Although they kept their voices to a minimum, other Sky Dragon Empire's warriors overheard. The few Warrior King elders, in particular, were taken aback. These warriors from Sky Dragon Empire were bewildered even though they were unaware of Tian's full story in Hidden Dragon Isle. In mere 6 months, Tian managed to advance past warrior state and skyrocketed 8 subtiers. There were no words to describe such talent. I merely got lucky. Tian smiled. It was only the warrior spirit state. With the heaven and earth reincarnation in hands, his cultivation may breeze through in the beginning, but it would not be that easy later on. On the other side, Tian Jin Empire's spiritual master Tian Xiao was growing upset due to the absence of Tian Wuji. No one was more clear than him of Tian Wuji's cultivation level and ability. Although Tian Wuji was only a Tier 2 warrior king, the treasures and mastered skills he possessed deemed him a champion amongst the disciples that ventured to Hidden Dragon Isle. It was impossible that anyone could defeat him. However, while many of the warriors had made it back, there were only a handful who belonged to Tian Jin Empire's imperial family. The majority were out of sight. Third uncle, Wuji, was killed. A Tier 9 warrior spirit approached spiritual master Tian Xiao and muttered fearfully. It was impossible to cover up the truth as the imperial family would eventually get to the bottom of it. All of them would be in trouble if they tried to hide the truth anyway. Thus, the best decision was to come forth. Wuji was killed. Who did it? Spiritual master Tian Xiao's expression hardened. The imperial family arranged for Tian Wuji to enter Hidden Dragon Isle in search of a few valuable ingredients. Without these resources, the imperial family's dominion would come to a halt. With these materials, it would raise the bar in Tian Jin Empire's ability within a year. With that, the empire could then reign over Eastern Spirit Greenland. He was killed by Sky Dragon Empire's Tian. Tian Su pointed at Tian, who was at Sky Dragon Empire's section. He quivered at the sight of Tian. For a warrior spirit to kill Tian Wuji, Tian's ability sent chills down his spine. It was then, Tian he landed. Countless surviving warriors of Sky Dragon Empire came together and waited for the time to depart in unison. This place was dangerous, after all. Boy, you're a Tier 7 warrior spirit. Noticing Tian's cultivation level, Tian he was in shock. Regardless of how powerful a warrior spirit, they were no threat to him, a warrior ascendant. Nevertheless, the velocity that Tian was cultivating was over the top. At this rate, achieving warrior ascendant or warrior emperor state was not impossible in a few years. It was only sheer luck. Tian credited it to luck. There was no such thing as a fluke when it came to advancing in cultivation. Moreover, even if it was a fluke, it could not have happened more than once. How could he break through 8 subtiers by chance? Everyone was rendered speechless, but more so amazed by this young man. This young man was only 16. For him to reach a Tier 7 warrior spirit state by the age of 16, the sky was the limit in his future. The rift in the sky disappeared 10 minutes later. Those who should have returned had returned, while those who had not, had clearly perished. There were 10,000 warriors who went in, but less than 2,000 made it back. This time, Sky Dragon Empire managed to retain close to 300 warriors. These were better numbers than previous journeys. Many were overjoyed over their disciples' find in treasures and medicinal supplies, while others were upset over the death of their genius disciples and unavailability of treasures and medicinal supplies. Let's go, we should head back. It's been half a year now, it's time to return and take a break. Tian, he cried. Tian, he was the strongest and possessed the highest cultivation in all of Sky Dragon Empire, so naturally, he was the leader. Bai Yan and the rest had no comments. They were over the moon because out of 200 disciples that went in, 107 came back. Of course they were happy to see the handful of geniuses making a safe return as well. Misty Pavilion Celestial Fairy Qing Ling and Bai Ling had a blank look on their faces, but everyone could sense that they were in a good mood. As for Radiant Sect, their elder was not in good spirits due to the absence of their geniuses. Meanwhile, Sky Dragon Empire's airship and swift boat took flight and were on course to Sky Dragon Empire when they were stopped. Tian Xiao, what's the meaning of this? Are you trying to wage war between 2 empires? For a moment, Sky Dragon Empire's 400 warriors were agitated. Dozen-odd powerful qi originating from Tianjin Empire were in their way. 7 warrior ascendants, 11 warrior kings, and countless warrior spirits besieged them. Even other sects of Tianjin Empire banded together. Just these warrior ascendants alone were enough to vaporize every one of them. If they were to really make a move, all of Sky Dragon Empire would perish here. Whether 2 empires wage war would depend on you. Ignoring other warriors, spiritual master Tian Xiao darted a sharp gaze at Tian. He was unable to wrap his head around the fact that a Tier 7 warrior spirit disciple killed Tian Wuji, a warrior king. Tian Xiao, it's the Tianjin Empire who is in our way. You started this and in front of everybody too. What nerve! Tian, he was unaware of the matter surrounding Tian Wuji, neither did he know about Tian killing Tian Wuji. Otherwise, he would not say so. Hand him over and you can all leave with your lives spared, or else everyone from Sky Dragon Empire has to remain here. Tian Zhao's face was distorted by anger. Tian Wuji was a prince of the Tian imperial family and was killed in the party led by him. Who knew what punishment would await him during his return? He is a disciple of our Sky Dragon Empire. Why should we hand him over to you? He has nothing to do with you. Tian, he summoned the courage to reply. His heart was pounding. Something must have happened that he was not aware about. Otherwise, Tianjin Empire would not pick a fight in front of other empires. The 4 elders including Bai Yan dreaded seeing Tian Xiao picking on Tian. Only the warriors from Hidden Dragon Isle knew what had happened between Tian and Tian Wuji. He committed a grave crime by killing Tianjin Empire's second prince, Tian Wuji. Surging his body of qi, spiritual master Tian Xiao answered in fury. With war on the verge of breaking out, warriors from the other 2 empires and mysterious super clans circled around to watch the bustle. Chapter 59, Powerful Multicolored Beast. Chapter 59, Powerful Multicolored Beast. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Tian Wuji was killed by a warrior spirit? No way. Tian Wuji is a warrior king supermaster. Many warriors gasped at spiritual master Tian Xiao's words. These were the warriors who never made it to Divine Dragon Palace. Otherwise, they would be trembling in fear rather than taken by surprise. It doesn't matter even if you don't take my word for it. Li Ling Tian is indeed a Tier 7 warrior spirit, and a Tier 7 warrior spirit killed Tian Wuji. The battle was incredible. Both of them unleashed a horrifying skill that even I, a Tier 3 warrior king, would not be able to manage, let alone you, who is a warrior spirit. A Tier 5 warrior king would not be able to handle the force coming from Sky Domineering Fist, but alas, he was up against Ling Tian, this crazy bastard. I think Li Ling Tian unleashed the heaven and earth conflagration. For a moment, the warriors who witnessed the battle between Li Ling Tian and Tian Wuji recalled the earlier battle. They shivered at the thought of it. If it were not for Hidden Dragon Isle reopening the teleportation portal, the few warrior kings would also be eliminated. A Tier 7 warrior spirit destroyed Tian Wuji, a Tier 2 peak warrior king, and challenged 8 warrior kings. Nobody was immune to this terrifying ability. What? Boy, you killed Tian Wuji. Tian He, Bai Yan, and the rest were dumbfounded. They were clear on Tian Wuji's identity and ability as he proved to the strongest existence to enter Hidden Dragon Isle this time. It never crossed their minds that Li Ling Tian would kill him. It was hard for them to believe such a thing. He's only a mere warrior king. You're telling me that anyone who perishes in Hidden Dragon Isle will be avenged by those on the outside? Li Ling Tian walked up the swift boat and faced spiritual master Tian Xiao head-on. The Tier 4 warrior ascendant was releasing powerful vigor that despite his great ability, Li Ling Tian could still feel the suppression. There was no escaping now that an elder came knocking on his door for killing Tian Wuji. He might as well stand up and face it. These words caught many warrior kings and warrior ascendants off guard. There was a rule in Eastern Spirit Greenland that stipulated anyone killed in an area like Hidden Dragon Isle could not be taken vengeance for on the outside. Although such was the rule, many on the outside would get even in secret. No one would brazenly retaliate in the open. Now that Tianjin Empire's prince was killed, the situation was getting out of hand. Avenge? You're not worthy. But, you should hand over the prince's storage sack or else I'll terminate you even if it's in the name of revenge. Sky Dragon Empire will also be involved because of you. Spiritual Master Tian Xiao was gobsmacked. It never occurred to him that a warrior spirit disciple had such guts. Any other warrior spirits would tremble before a warrior ascendant. The close to 2,000 warriors gathered here were all the forces of Eastern Spirit Greenland. If the word were to get out, Tianjin Empire may suffer the attack from other forces despite its omnipotence. Although Tian Wuji was killed, he was willing to take a step back and asked only for Tian Wuji's storage sack. He could then find a chance in the future to eliminate Li Ling Tian for the sake of saving his face. Do you think I'll give in that easily? Tian Wuji was rubbish and useless to get himself killed in Divine Dragon Palace. Now you want me to hand over the storage sack? Why can't I come across such a convenient thing? Li Ling Tian replied with a smile. His indifference and calmness surprised many warriors and commanded admiration. Li Ling Tian spoke frankly to a warrior ascendant. He may not know what was inside Tian Wuji's storage sack, but Tian Xiao must be dreaming to think he would give up an item that was already in his possession. Die. Spiritual Master Tian Xiao was fuming. He gave an inch to Li Ling Tian, yet he refuted him in the face in front of everybody. How dare a warrior spirit disciple defy a warrior ascendant? In a fit of rage, the warrior ascendant's repression viciously slammed onto Sky Cloud Sect's swift boat. The astounding repression overwhelmed the atmosphere with an intensity that could be cut through with a knife. The expression of countless super geniuses and warrior king elders stiffened due to Tian Zhao's repression. A Tier 5 warrior ascendant was indeed powerful. Tian Zhao's heavenly destruction technique cultivated to the 8th layer is definitely potent. Anyone under a Tier 5 warrior ascendant is no match for him. A few masters who were familiar with Tian Xiao were caught by surprise. They had an inkling of Sky Cloud sect disciples' fate against this Tier 5 warrior ascendant. Even if Sky Cloud sect's leader was present, he would not be able to defeat Tian Xiao. Roar! All of Sky Cloud sect geniuses, as well as Bai Yan's group, were horrified. Out of helplessness, they circulated their skills to ward off Tian Xiao's repression. As these disciples were the geniuses of Sky Cloud sect, they did not want them to wound up dead. Just then, a violent growl was heard. A thundering demonic energy towered the sky and came to blows with the repression. Bam! Sizzle, sizzle. The dimension contorted following a loud explosion. Tian Xiao lost his footing, prompting him to swiftly retreat 10 yards. His face was black and blue. Sky Cloud sect's swift boat took in quite a stir as it propelled several yards back. Nevertheless, there was no harm done. The most powerful person on Sky Cloud sect's swift boat was only a warrior king elder. When they turned their gaze to Sky Cloud sect's swift boat, they caught a glimpse of a valiant multicolored beast erecting with might. Its huge pair of eyes were fixated on Tian Xiao while its body rubbed lovingly against Li Tian. A 4th-tier multicolored beast. He's treating a 4th-tier multicolored beast as a pet. It's no wonder Tian Wuji was killed. With a 4th-tier multicolored beast, who stands to be his match? Elders of every force stared at the multicolored beast. A 4th-tier level 4 demonic beast was comparable to a tier 4 warrior ascendant, as the demonic beast was naturally strong and could hold its own against a tier 5 warrior ascendant. Tian Wuji was killed by this multicolored beast? Misty Pavilion Celestial Fairy Qing Ling asked Zhou Qingqing in a gentle voice. She was not convinced that Li Tian killed Tian Wuji in the beginning, but took their words for it at the sight of a 4th-tier demonic beast. No, Tian Wuji was destroyed by Li Tian. The skills they unleashed were at least an Onyx tier. In the final leg, Li Tian released an Earth tier inferior Heaven and Earth conflagration and 1,000 shadows of fluttering flowers, while Tian Wuji unleashed the Sky Domineering Fist. Zhou Qingqing gave the lowdown on the battle between Li Tian and Tian Wuji. It crossed her mind that if it were not for Li Tian, every warrior of Sky Dragon Empire would have been slaughtered. How omnipotent for a tier 7 warrior spirit. With an emotion stirring in Celestial Fairy Bai Ling, she took a few glances at Li Tian. Nobody could take their eyes away from the multicolored beast beside Li Tian, including spiritual master Tian Xiao. The first collision between a human and a beast proved them to be equally matched. This was going to be a battle worth watching. Fine, fine. So you have help from this vile animal. I'll vaporize all of you today. Spiritual Master Tian Xiao was up in arms. With his attack fended off by a demonic beast, he had accomplished nothing yet somehow lost face, putting him in a tight spot. Will you die if you don't speak? Are you just making noise there to make yourself known? I feel embarrassed for you, Li Tian coldly blurted. His words stirred a commotion. For Li Tian to insult a warrior ascendant point blank, this young man really had balls. It was quite a bizarre atmosphere. Tian he looked at Li Tian with curious eyes. He had some understanding of this young man. Li Tian may seem reckless the last time, but he still managed to fool a warrior ascendant like him. Surely, Li Tian was not wet behind the ears,